welcome to episode 263 of I Be Suffer. I'm Nathan.
Chris.
Yeah, Chris is here. We're going to talk about some bunch of bullshit we watched for Junesploitation 2023. Yeah, I feel like anytime, like, we didn't message each other a lot about stuff we watched. Periodically we would, and it would usually be like, I made a bad decision this day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so if you don't know, Junesploitation is this thing that the website F This Movie, and they may have a podcast as well, I'm not exactly sure, F This Movie does, where they just a prompt for each day of June that is supposed to, like, get people to watch shit they maybe normally wouldn't watch, or like from genres they probably maybe normally wouldn't really watch. But I feel like a lot of the people I know that participate are pretty, like, already into most of these genres.
Yeah.
So,
there's no surprises on the list at all.
Yeah, like, so I think this year is the year that I had mostly, I would say, decent watches. I have a couple clunkers in here. I have
you did better than I did.
I had one I very specifically picked that I knew was going to be real shitty that we'll talk to when we get to Westerns.
Oh, God.
But, like, it was, I mean, I would say I had at least one good movie every pick. I did two for each one just because I don't know self-control.
When you mentioned that you were going to watch two for each of them, I was like, I am, due to my work schedule, having days where I have to park myself on the couch and watch 3 movies in a row with no clue as to whether or not they're going to even be remotely entertaining. And that's just to cover 3 days. And meanwhile, here's this psychopath that's watching 2 for every day.
Oh, I think the first year I participated, I didn't necessarily do, like, I kept track on, like, a letterbox list, but not like for, like, any real purpose other than just to, like have the list of stuff I watched for it. But I didn't do, like, a podcast or anything for it. I think I hit, like, 97 movies.
Oh my God.
Like, I was
you are a champ. You win Junesploitation.
But I also, like, I just have, like, 8 hours at work that I will, if I'm not listening to a podcast, I just have, like, movies playing in the background.
Yeah.
And so it was something like that. I watched a lot of fucking shitty stuff because it was mostly just, like, I would just be like, okay, like, you know, what canon films are on Tubi? Or, like, what fucking Cars movies can I find on Tubi? And it was just a bunch of just real bullshit. And this year I actually, like, I made a list that got fucked with a lot as I went through. But, like, just based on, like, I would make a preliminary list, and it was just kind of like, oh, well, I actually can't find a decent version of this movie. I wanted to do, like, anywhere streamable, so I had to just find something on, like, YouTube or Arrow or, like, whatever streaming service I have. So it got fucked with a little bit, but not, I think for the most part I would say like 80% of the stuff I picked at the beginning is what I ended up watching.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. There was like 2 things that I backed out of. Mostly just because when I found them streaming, the quality was just unwatchable. It was like I set the stipulation for myself that they had to all be first-time views, which most people do, it seems. And also that if I started something, I had to finish it. So that's how I ended up with some absolute clunkers on here. But yeah, there was like 2 selections that I picked things ahead of time for the list, and then I put them on. And I was like, I can't see what's going on. I can't hear what's going on. I can barely read the subtitle. Whatever it was, I was just like, no, I can't even make a valid assessment of this.
Yeah, I had like a couple that I had found on like YouTube when I was doing my preliminary list, but then when I went to watch it was like, oh, this is in like Czechoslovakian, and I don't understand any of these subtitles, so I guess I'm finding something different. And I think all of mine, for the most part, are first-time watches. My rule was, like, it had to have been something I had never logged on Letterboxd, and I think I only had one that I gave an exception for during, like, a free space day.
Gotcha.
Other than that, everything was at least something, and so it was at least something that I haven't watched in the last, like, 7 years or fucking however long Letterboxd has existed. So
Yeah.
I have a couple rewatches, but I feel like most of them. Let's see. I think most of them that were rewatches were something that like I had maybe seen once in like the 90s and hadn't seen since. I think only one of them is something I used to watch really frequently, like I have a very good knowledge of, but hadn't watched since Letterboxd had been around.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say the only one that strayed into the territory of something that I had already seen was my Fulci selection. Was something that I had started at one point in time, but was watching a really low quality version of it, and I found a better one this time around. So
yeah, I feel like at this point, what sucks is like Fulci's. They always do Fulci for his birthday, and I'm at that point where I'm like, okay, I've seen all of Fulci's horror work, so now I'm just stuck with like his not great like 70s comedies or whatever, or like westerns, which is like my least favorite genre.
Yeah, or there's like that handful of direct to TV movies that he did in the 80s also.
Yeah.
Which are the ones that I've seen are exceptionally poor quality. So
all right, yeah, we'll dive into this. So I have, what is this, 62 movies, because I think we both ended up doing all of the Nemesis movies for the last one, and
that could be an episode in and of itself, to be completely honest.
Those were also, like, I watched a lot of this shit sort of out of order, so, like, I feel like I watched those really early on, and at this point I'm like, I don't remember what happened in 2, 3, 4, or 5. They all sort of blurred together.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I did watch them on the 30th of June, and I was exhausted, and my brain was so fried by the time I got about midway through 3 that I cannot tell you what took place in 4 at all. So, yeah, that's something that like I like I said, we could easily do an entire episode on just those.
So we'll dive into the first category, which was teenagers.
All right.
What'd you watch for teenagers?
I watched Trick or Treat from 1986.
Oh hell yeah! Wait, is that so? Which one's that?
That's what I was gonna. I because I had seen another Trick or Treat from around the same time. So this one was a first time view for me. This was the Sammy Kerr.
Okay, yeah, that movie rocks.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a good way to start off Junesploitation.
Yeah, we did like a crossover with Girl That's Scary, and I forget if that was it was a movie Kit picked that I had not seen, and like it rules. If you're into heavy metal and horror movies, it's like the perfect combination. Yeah,
it's I mean, if you haven't seen it before, for anybody who's listening, it's basically if you took every 80s satanic panic trope and crammed them into a movie, that's the plot of Trick or Treat. It's all just like the satanic panic, backwards masking on records, all that stuff just come to life.
Yeah, the songs rule. Like the I can't remember the actor's name. Like the guy who plays like the main protagonist is pretty good. Sammy Kerr obviously killing it. Like, great movie.
Yeah, ripping guitar solos with like 6-inch long fingernails. Complete impossibility.
Yeah. That's a good start. I feel like we both had good starts that then sort of dwindle a little bit. Yeah. I the only thing that I will say is that given like the current climate of things, I feel like if Sammy Kerr was real and alive nowadays, he'd be like a Trumper complaining on Fox News about Los Lobos taking his county fair gigs. Oh, I mean, he would be like Paul Stanley.
Yeah.
Bitching about trans people despite spending all of his time in makeup and high heels. Like,
yeah. What did you watch?
So I had my two. I did a Mark L. Lester double feature of Class of 1984 and Class of 1999.
Oh man, those movies rock so much.
I had no real reference for them other than just sort of knowing that, like they would fit in the category of teenagers when I picked them, and they're bangers. They're both so good.
Oh yeah, I watched Class of 1984 for the first time I think like 3 or 4 years ago, and it was one of those ones that like I got done watching and immediately called a friend and was like, "Yo."
Yeah, I think I'd immediately texted Kit and I was like, both of these are so far up your alley, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I think he owns 1984 on like Blu-ray or something."
Yeah,
But I was like, you have to watch Class of 1999. 1984 is, 80s fucking movie where it was made in 1982, and they just decided by 1984 the world was just going to be like an absolute fucking nightmare.
that school is like something else.
I complain about it all the time on I Hope You Suffer, where we'll watch some movie now where I'm just like, these bullies seem so unrealistic. They're so brutal that, like, I know somewhere a bully like this exists, but it's just like kind of like when you watch like Stephen King's It, where you're just like, this dude's carving his name into this kid's belly. Like, this seems overboard.
Yeah.
And then you watch this movie, and it's just fucking a bunch of 30-year-olds playing teenagers that, like, assault the teacher's wife and kidnap her. They're just, like, killing people, and I'm like, all right.
Yeah. A friend of mine actually, my friend Brendan, watched this, I believe, for his selection also, too, for Junesploitation. And he messaged me probably about halfway through and was like, "Oh, this is really good." I was like, "Dude, wait until the final act of the movie."
So
because
ridiculous.
It just goes completely bonkers for the last 20 minutes, and it rules.
Yeah, it's so good. Like, I was expecting it to just to not like Class of Nukem High isn't like the right like comparison.
Mm-hmm.
But I was expecting, like, I didn't expect it to be, like, as goofy as that movie is, but I was expecting it to be a little more, like, I don't know, fun.
Yeah.
And while the movie's fun, but it's also so fucking, like, bleak at the same time.
It really is. And it doesn't end happy.
No.
Like, yeah, that bleakness continues on until the final credits.
And then you get to Class of 1999, which not a sequel, just another Class of movie that Mark L. Lester made. And I think I liked this one more, and that's probably mostly due to, like, Stacy Keach, Patrick Kilpatrick, and Pam Grier being the fucking robots in it.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
Stacy Keach is the doctor. Who's the... John Ryan, I think, is the other android in it. It's very good. And it's like, this one's way more futuristic, because it's like the classes have, like, fucking, like, robots for teachers. Like, there's, like, giant, like, I don't know, force fields around the school or some shit. Like, this one's leans way more into, like, this is what the future's gonna be like. Stacy Keach with, like, a bleached white flat top and, like, white eyes.
Such a bad look for him in that movie. Right. I mean, it's awesome, but...
yeah, I highly recommend both of them. They were both, like, just fun. Like, Pam Grier, always killing it.
Oh, yeah.
It also had Malcolm McDowell as, like, the principal of the school. And just great cast.
Yeah, he has done some bizarre stuff over the years that you're like, how did they get him?
Honestly, I feel like he's one of those dudes that, like, for the most part was just like, yeah, you pay me to get there, and, like, whatever my, like, fee is, I'll do your movie. Yeah. It's the same way Lloyd Kaufman's just like, Lloyd Kaufman will be in your movie for free if you pay for him to get there for the most, shit like that. And he seems like one of those dudes that would do that. I like to assume that's the only way he ended up in Rob Zombie's movies.
Oh my god. Yeah.
All right. Day 2, Monsters. What
did you watch for Monsters?
Okay, so I had 1931's Frankenstein, which I had not seen in, 20 years.
Awesome.
And holds up. Still great.
Yeah.
There's a reason it's classic. Yeah, I don't know. This is like, it's one that is just like, it's one of those things where I'm just like, everything has been said about this movie. I don't have anything new to say about it other than it's great. Go watch it if you have not seen it. And then I followed that up with Joe D'Amato's 1991's Return from Death, Frankenstein 2000, which was the exact opposite. I love Joe D'Amato. I will, like, even the movies he does that, like, aren't good usually at least look good, but this one, not the case. This one's just kind of bad all around.
Gotcha. I will not make it a priority to watch that then, because I enjoy Joe D'Amato's stuff as well.
It has, like, an interesting premise where it's like this woman's, like, kid gets, it's like, so there's this woman who's, like, living in this apartment complex, and the handyman in the apartment complex is this, like, sort of older gentleman that is like, will, like, babysit her kid and stuff like that. And at some point in the movie, like, these thugs, like, break in and assault her, and then, like, it gets blamed on the handyman, so he gets, like, I forget if he gets put to death or goes to jail and is killed. It's something like that. And, like, he dies, and then, like, she goes into a coma from all this stuff, and somehow her brainwaves in her coma are, like, bringing him back to life as this, like, Frankenstein monster, and he's just, like, wreaking havoc. And it's like, I don't know, it's got, like, I guess an interesting premise, but it's just, you know, I think it's maybe the last movie he made, and it just, like, it's just not great. And it also, like, didn't help that I'm assuming the only version that's kind of available is just, like, a shitty VHS rip. So It, like, just looks bad, too.
It sounds, way too complicated for a Joe D'Amato film. And B, it's got, like, Patrick Still Lives vibes.
Yeah.
With that whole, like, psychic mind going into somebody else type thing.
Like, the finale of it is, like, pretty good. Like, it's the best part of the movie, but it just, like, I don't know, the first hour and 10 minutes of it or whatever are just kind of by the numbers and a little, like, boring at parts. So it's just kind of overall was like, I don't know, it's fine.
Gotcha.
What'd you watch?
I watched Legend of Dinosaurs and Monster Birds from 1977, and I have a tough time saying that title without laughing.
I mean,
the title card is awesome. The title card's awesome because it barely fits on the screen, all written in Japanese, and it would barely fit on the screen written in English, so it's just an absurd title. It was okay. I gave it a 2 out of 5. I mean, I love kaiju films. Like, I will take a 40th Godzilla sequel any day of the week. And watch it and probably rewatch it and argue with people over why it's still a good movie, even if it's not that great. The soundtrack to this one is awesome. It's like mid to late 70s Japanese jazz music, which I dig listening to. But it's pretty dull overall. Like, nothing will happen for 10 minutes, and then, like, something randomly will blow up, or somebody starts screaming. But I will say that the monsters in it look so shitty, and they're awesome.
That's the best kind.
Yeah, there's scenes where it is clearly like two toys just being flung at one another on a fishing line, and it's awesome, and I'm here for it.
Yeah.
It definitely feels like a pilot for a television series that never got picked up. It's like just shy of 90 minutes, where it could have been, you know, like I don't know if they did like Monday night movies or anything like that on Japanese television in the 70s, but it feels like one of those types of deal.
Sure.
But yeah, and it's I don't know. It's okay. Like, there's worse ways that you can spend your time, but I was definitely expecting more dinosaurs and monster birds.
I feel like you very rarely could go wrong with, like, any sort of kaiju movie. Like, it may not, it's like, I feel like a lot of the ones we've randomly just kind of picked for I Hope You Suffer, where I'm just like, I don't know, it wasn't, like, good, but I also had a good time watching it, because I got to watch monsters just slap each other in a fucking model of Japan or whatever.
Agreed.
All right. Day 3 was Polizia Techie. This was maybe my... Like, the 2 movies I picked were fine, but I was also kind of just like, I don't know. This was whatever. Like, probably my blandest of all of the picks. What you have for Polizia Techie?
This was one of the best things that I watched for Junesploitation, and I felt really dumb for having put it off as long as I did. But I watched Investigation of a Citizen Above Suspicion from 1970.
Oh, okay.
With John Maria Volante. I'm going to screw his name up a billion times. And Florinda Balkan is in it too. But it's everything that anybody has heard about how good this movie is, it's that good and better in my opinion. I had heard that it was like near pinnacle of Polizioteschi's, and it's amazing. Jean Maria Volante is just unbelievable in it. I swear the man can make himself start sweating just through pure will alone. They do such great stuff with close-ups of his face in this movie where you watch him just kind of slowly fall apart while continuing to dig himself a deeper hole. It's awesome. I loved every single minute of that movie.
Yeah, I think I'd originally had that for my... That's like a long movie, right?
It's just shy of 2 hours, 118 minutes.
There was something I think this category and Yakuza were the 2 where I was like, every movie I was like picking, I was like, oh my god, why is this like 2.5 hours? So I ended up just finding like some random stuff, and like I picked 2 movies that were just solid 90 minutes for this, and they were fine, but like they just sort of kind of like happened, and I was like, all right, this is leaving my brain immediately, because it's like there wasn't enough interesting stuff happening in them that I was like, it like kept my interest. It was just essentially just like, I don't know, this guy's trying to take down purse snappers or fucking whatever.
Yeah.
So I watched 1976's The Cop in Blue Jeans, which is about this one was like, I think was the better of the 2, and it was like this cop that goes undercover to stop like purse snatchers and just like discovers Jack Palance is leading like a fucking like a ring of thieves or some shit.
Oh my god.
Italy. And it's like, it's pretty like there's like a lot of, the one thing this one had that my second movie didn't is it had a lot of like this undercover cop like fighting thieves as he comes across them. So it'd be like those, like he'd like show up at some hideout and get thrown into fucking like crates and like all that kind of shit that made it a little more interesting, but like just a little bit too much like detective work and like cops just like theorizing with each other type shit going on, where I was like, all right, something needs to happen.
Yeah.
Or I'm losing interest. And
like the world's dullest Law and Order episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like everyone acting in The Cop in Blue Jeans is really good. It's just kind of, I don't know, it was like one of those things where I think this is one of like the first couple movies I watched, and I was just like, just a day that it just wasn't holding my attention.
Yeah.
And so the second one I watched was 1975's Savage 3.
Nice.
Also, like, I gave both of them 3 stars. Like, they're both totally good. They just, I don't know, just the day I watched them, I was kind of, it just wasn't hitting me as a lot of these movies usually will.
Yeah.
But all, like, both just totally watchable.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a whole lot to say about Savage 3. It's, like, it's fine. Definitely recommend if you're, like, into any sort of Italian cinema, but, you know, just know you're, like, I guess you should know what you're getting into with the Poliziotecchi genre, but I was just like, I don't know, give me less police work, so go punch some criminals or some shit, do something.
Yeah, drive a motorcycle up and down a flight of stairs for no good reason.
Yeah, all these movies should be like Mission Impossible, where it's just the main actor is like on like the wing of a plane
doing stunts.
Just almost killing themselves.
Yeah.
All right, day 4 was Cars.
Oh, gotcha.
I so I had 2 wildly different movies. With I had 1982's Ferrat Vampire, which was about a car that sucks blood through the pedal you use your foot on to fuel the car. Which
Okay.
it's about, so it's like these people create this car that, like, I guess doesn't run on gas because it's fueled by, like, I don't know, the feet. You're like sucking blood through your feet, and like this, and it's like I think the car is very specifically like a race car is not the right word, but that's what they use it for in the movie. Is like this ambulance driver who's like obsessed with cars that wants to become like a rally race car driver. And so they give her the chance, and it's in this car, and then her coworker, like that drove the ambulance with her, is trying to figure out like what the fuck's going on. And it's not like the best movie, but it's kind of goofy and like totally interesting watch. Like, extremely interesting premise. I don't know if there's another movie about a car that like is also a vampire.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's pretty good. I watched it on YouTube, I think, and like, it's weird because it straddles the line of like trying to be a horror movie but also trying to be like a crime mystery, and so it doesn't really connect, I feel like, with either fully, but still kind of works overall. And then I watched 1990's The Ambulance by Larry Cohen, which has Eric Roberts trying to find an ambulance that keeps just like kidnapping people off the streets when they pass out, and like less about the ambulance and more about this doctor trying to like killing people, trying to like cure diseases or some shit.
Wow.
Not the best Larry Cohen movie I've ever seen, but still, again, totally watchable. It's kind of feels more like a 90's like made for TV movie than like a real movie, but pretty good.
Yeah, I've heard people mention that one before, but I've never seen it myself. I am definitely going to check out the vampire car movie though.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's for everybody, but I think you would probably dig it.
Yeah, it sounds like something that would be up my alley.
I also think it was, what country was that from? Yeah, it was a Czechoslovakian movie.
Oh my god!
Like, I was like, I don't know if I've ever seen one, so this is definitely going on the list.
Gotcha.
So what'd you have for Cars?
I watched Fast Company from 1979. I was trying to round out David Cronenberg's filmography, and this was the only movie of his that I hadn't seen.
I don't think I've seen that one.
This was a chore to get through. I think I watched it over the course of like 2 or 3 separate viewings. I just kept having to get up and walk away from it. Going into it, I was expecting like maybe some early shades of like that Cronenberg erotization of like inanimate objects that you get in some of his movies. I was expecting like maybe like close-ups of hands caressing engine manifolds or something like that, and or exhaust manifolds rather. And it's not that. It's like a 90-minute long Canadian trade school lecture. It's got kind of a cool ending, but you have to get through the rest of the movie to get to it, and there's just so little happening. There's some cool looking drag cars in it, but that's about it. You have like dual protagonists, and I don't know, like one of them's completely unlikable, and the other one is William Smith, who I usually like in movies, but this is like pre-super gravelly voice William Smith. And he's okay, but yeah, I don't know. I gave it a 1.5 out of 5. It was not my favorite thing I watched.
Yeah, I like what year is that from?
79.
Oh, okay. Like I feel like Cronenberg when he hit that like post horror stuff in like maybe the late 90s, early 2000s, where I'm like, okay, like it's fine, but story wise not necessarily for me, but like I can see what he's going for, and that kind of sounds a little bit like some of that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
it was a chore.
I don't know why I have like not ever gotten around to that, but maybe I'll put it off a little longer now hearing that.
Yeah, I was actually I was listening to Unsung Horrors do their Junesploitation recap, and I was actually surprised, given her love for John Saxon, that Erica didn't select this one for Cars, but maybe she's already seen it.
I feel
don't know.
like based on Cronenberg and John Saxon, she's probably already seen that.
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
been putting off listening to that till after we did this, because
Yeah.
that's like my
Well,
that and like the when they do the Blu-ray wish list episodes are like some of my favorite
oh,
episodes of the year.
the Blu-ray wish list episodes are
Yeah.
fantastic. But yeah, spoiler alert: she doesn't pick Fast Company for Cars.
Cars is another one where I'm always like I guess you could tell by like my two picks this year, and last year it was like Crash and Titan or whatever, where I'm just like
Yeah.
I don't want to watch like a 70s fucking like Smokey and the Bandit type movie, and that's what like everything is when you look up just cars on letterbox lists and shit, and I'm just like I need something where like the car is killing people or sentient or doing something interesting instead
Yeah,
of just
yeah.
a bunch of people driving around.
I definitely typed that in as a prompt into Letterboxd when I was trying to decide on something to watch for this category, and it was the same thing. I was like, none of this looks like, and I was like, oh, that's right. I got a copy of Fast Company that I still haven't watched yet, and I'm kind of upset that I spent money on it.
Yeah, that's how like a lot of my list ended up coming from stuff that I'd had on my watch list on Letterboxd for a while, or just straight up searching lists.
Hmm.
Or I was like, okay, I have this movie I haven't watched yet on Blu-ray that fits this category, so I'll just watch this. All right, so day 5, 90s action. What'd you have for 90s action?
I watched Run from 1991.
Oh, I don't know if I know what that is.
It is starring Patrick Dempsey, McDreamy, as everybody knows him now
Starting out
from
strong.
yeah, from Grey's Anatomy. I gave this a 3.5 out of 5. This was really entertaining and far more entertaining than it had any right to be. It's a pretty simple plot. Patrick Dempsey is a law school student who does side work as a mechanic. He gets a gig to drive a recently repaired Porsche to Atlantic City. He also enjoys gambling a little bit, and he gets involved in a card game that goes awry and spends the rest of the movie running. Literally. He's on foot most of the time. And it's pretty entertaining. It's shot kind of like a 1950s or 1960s thriller. There's like a lot of like low angle shots of like feet running down an alleyway that is lit from the front and stuff. Really, the weakest part of the entire movie is the soundtrack. But aside from that, it's pretty good. It's definitely like one that like is also obscure enough that I feel like somebody could remake it nowadays with very minimal changes. And it would take people a while to realize that it was a remake of a movie from 22 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's worth watching.
I'm interested. I feel like I would have saw Patrick Dempsey and been like, pass, just like, especially for like this, I would have just been like, I don't know if I want to watch
Yeah.
this, but it sounds interesting.
Yeah, he's I mean, surprisingly good in this. Really,
He's not a bad actor, I don't think.
yeah,
I
yeah.
say that
I mean,
as somebody that watched, I don't know, 12 seasons of Grey's Anatomy.
I mean, really, I've only seen him on that and maybe, I don't know, some rom-com
Yeah.
that he was in at one point in time. So I mean, that was my contact with him prior to this, and I had this kind of the same thought process, like, oh, I don't know if he's going to really do so well in an action film, but no, it's pretty good.
Yeah. All right, I watched 1995's Virtual Combat.
Oh my
with old Don the Dragon Wilson.
Oh man, I remember wanting to rent this so bad from the video store when I was a kid.
I am such a sucker for any of those like 90s movies that are just like, this is what virtual reality is gonna be like, and it's all like, they're never worth it. This was no exception. It was fine. Like, I gave it 2 stars. It wasn't like unwatchable. It just, I don't know, needed like more fight scenes, I guess. It like, yeah, I don't know. It's like some computer tycoon that's like trying to like prepare whatever fucking weird virtual reality DNA combo creature things he's creating, trying to like get them ready for the market, and I don't. It's Don Wilson's trying to stop him. It's not great, which is a bummer because like just incredible poster art. Like, this is the type of shit that like I would have ate this up in like late night, up all night, or like fucking Monster Vision type shit if it played. But I don't know. Now it just didn't necessarily work. I feel like the Billy Blanks shit Vinegar Syndrome's been putting out that like like are all these like weird 90s movies dealing with the future are like way better than this.
Yeah. I just had to look it up to remind myself what the cover looked like, and
you could see why I picked it.
yeah. That's the same thing with me. I was a total sucker for anything like this. I'm drawing a blank on like the names of all the guys that were in these movies, but yeah. But I do remember that from like mid 90s on, what you said about there being not enough fighting. I feel like that was the case in a lot of Don the Dragon Wilson's movies from mid 90s onwards. Is the fights got less and less.
Yeah, this one's like a deal. It's like got more sort of like romance shit going on than I was expecting. And I don't know. It's fine if you're like into like goofy, straight to like cable TV 90s action movies. You could pick worse, but I watched it after my second pick, which was 1994 Street Fighter, which
perfect film.
You're not gonna do better then. A banger. I don't know how this has a 2.1 on Letterboxd because this movie rocks. Everybody's wrong.
Yeah, it should definitely be rated higher than that. It's a perfect movie for Raul Julia to go out on his shield for.
Look, and you got Raul Julia and Kylie Minogue in this movie. Like,
yeah,
how is that not a perfect movie?
Yeah, and perfect casting for both of those characters. I mean, that's exactly what M. Bison looked like every time I played the video game. Was Raul Julia.
I just assumed they just took his body type for the game.
Yeah. Gomez Adams.
Yeah, Jean-Claude Van Damme delivering the most rousing speech of all time.
Oh my god, it beats everything in Independence Day completely.
I just like that he's supposed to be like Johnny American with his fucking wild accent.
That's one thing that I always have respect about Van Damme is I cannot think of a role where he has pretended to be anything other than what he actually is, regardless of what nationality he's supposed to be. I mean, Christ, even Hard Target.
Yeah.
Like, he could get away with pretending that he's Cajun, which he does for, like, the first time that he's on camera in the movie, and then after that, he's like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm Belgian.
He's the best of those, like, big American action movie stars in, like, from the 90s.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Like, I don't know. He deserved to get like it's not like he's not acting, but like I feel like he should have had a way better career trajectory than he did. But have you seen that? I think it's Jean-Claude Van Johnson TV show he did, where he's playing himself or whatever. It's so good. Like it's
hysterical.
Yeah. He's such a better actor than I feel like he's ever really given credit for, because he just gets type, I feel like a lot of the memification of stuff of just him dancing and doing the splits and shit like overshadow how good he actually is as an actor.
Yeah, I mean his even his bigger films when he was still, getting stuff released in theaters throughout the 90s, like they waxed and waned in quality. It's like he'd make a banger like Universal Soldier, and then he'd make Nowhere to Run, which was like, it was okay. It was fine to watch on a Sunday afternoon. And then he'd make Time Cop, and so like he was kind of like always up and down. And I can say the same thing too about a lot of his direct-to-video stuff. There's some of those are surprisingly good movies that I feel like if they had been given the chance in the theater, they would have done fairly well, but he just wasn't drawing at that point in time. But he's just been consistently decent. Whereas like Steven Seagal keeps making movies and like they're unwatchable.
I feel like my cousin was obsessed with Steven Seagal when we were kids, and I was like, this sucks. Why are we watching this?
Yeah. I mean, I can say that there is one film of his that has one fight scene that I enjoy watching, and the rest of his stuff is garbage. Like, it's terrible. Usually the best thing about his movies from the 80s and the 90s are the other people that are in them.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I feel like he's one of those ones that would, like, be teamed up with, like, a rapper for some reason in a bunch of movies, and I was like, this is way more interesting because whatever, like, rapper they're making him interact with.
Yeah, he's like in a movie with Exhibit for no reason.
Yeah. All right, so day 6 was Free Space, and I started it with Class of 1999 2, The Substitute.
How was that?
Not as good like nowhere near as good as the original, but like watchable. It's a wildly different story than the other one, where like the cyborg teacher is like actually the hero in it. So it's kind of like it's more about the teachers than it is like students dealing with these robot teachers. Like the cyborg in it, I don't know, is maybe in love with one of the other teachers and is constantly like stopping her from being, I don't know, mugged and shit. I don't know, it's weird. It's not a movie I would recommend unless you're like, I don't know, I'm gonna watch both of them back to back or something.
Gotcha.
It's not the worst thing I've ever seen, but also it's very sort of just like it's a movie that exists more than like anything. You're just kind of like, yeah, I don't know, I guess that's a movie I watched. But I also watched 1980's Night of the Demon.
Nice.
So I could watch Bigfoot rip off someone's dick.
Oh man, that movie is so amazing.
It rules. It's the fucking plot's a mess. Like, I don't know what the fuck's going on. Bigfoot looks incredible in it.
Yeah.
And like all I really knew about it is like I wish I would have grabbed it while Severin still had like they might still have this. I don't know. I think they sold out of slipcover versions of it that I wanted. And I was like, when it came out, I was like, that sounds interesting, but I'm going to hold off. And for whatever reason, never got around to grabbing it. And I wish I would have, because it's fucking great.
Yeah, I had, I feel like I had seen, like, the poster artwork for it or something like that, like, over the years, but never watched it. And then, I think the first time I heard anybody talk about it was Sam talking about it on Twitch of the Death Nerve, and she was like super hyped on it, and I was like, oh, all right, I'll check this out, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, I think Kit had bought it like when Severin like first released it and was telling me about it, and I was like, that's interesting, because like the artwork for it on like Letterboxd is I think what Severin released it with, and like it doesn't look like a Bigfoot on it. And I think the first time I saw it, I was like, I didn't realize it was a Bigfoot movie, because it just kind of looks more like a Neanderthal thing. Yeah. And I was like, I don't know. And yeah, it's wild. Like the first 30 minutes of it are kind of boring, but then like once it kicks off, it's like it goes some fucking weird places. And I think the one thing most people know about it is that Sasquatch Bigfoot rips off some dude's dick and it rocks.
Yeah. He's like doing something weird before that happens too. Like
I feel like he was like going to like just pee in some bushes, but like I don't remember specifically what he was getting ready to do.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he was like, he was riding his motorcycle down the road. He does something like weird with a cigarette or a joint or something. And then, yeah, he's on the side of the road taking a leak, and then it happens, and it's awesome.
Yeah. What'd you watch for Free Space?
So for Free Space, I watched actually, I'm going to like kind of do a quick little plug for a local filmmaker, from Massachusetts, this guy named Nick Verity. A friend of a friend was in this movie that I got the chance to see, called Sweet Relief. And I'll give the letterbox description of it because I don't want to get too into the details. If you get a chance to check this out, you should give it a watch. It's pretty decent. But the letterbox description is: a woman's dangerous inclinations, a sadistic child killer, and panic surrounding an online murder challenge reveal the insidious violence of a small New England town. It was all filmed like right around the corner of Massachusetts that I'm from. So it was like kind of interesting spotting things that like I recognized in the background. I was like, oh no, I know where that is, and all. But yeah, it was pretty good. I gave it a 3 out of 5. Like I said, if you get a chance to check this out, you definitely should. I know he made one other film prior to this, and I have not seen that one.
Oh yeah, is it like? Did it just come out like recently?
They've been doing some showings of it recently at like some theaters. I do not believe that it has gotten a digital release yet, but the friend of a friend, is a local musician who goes by the name Burial Grid, hooked me up with a link to watch it. So yeah, but when if it's out there and anybody listening gets a chance to check it out, you should give it a watch. Support people that are making movies that don't cost $1.5 million and tell a cohesive story.
Yeah, movies with a cohesive story, overrated.
Yeah, the hell with that.
All right, day 7 was slashers. What'd you watch for slashers?
I watched Massacre from 1989.
Have I seen that? Let me see. I feel like there's a bunch of those like movies that I'm always like, have I seen that? I don't know. I have not.
Yeah, this is a this was part.
Presents.
Yeah, this is part of these like direct to television, I think, movies that like Fulci's name got attached to, but he didn't really have anything to do with the production. I think there might be one of them that like they brought him in to finish because the other director just fell apart during the production of it. But this is Andrea Bianchi that directed this. It is dog shit from the opening shot, and I love it. There's a killer in it. He looks like somebody's grandpa out for a walk, and he's wearing a windbreaker, like 80s guy shades, and red knitted like literal winter gloves. And like the credits start rolling and they're not even done yet, and he has already decapitated a hooker. And like not 3 minutes after that, there's like 2 plots running congruently where there's like a film being made in the movie. And then this killer that's terrorizing the production and stuff like that. And they like 3 minutes later in the movie, the production of the film is taking place. And one of the characters actually says, "This is a shitty movie anyways." And I was like, well, I can't disagree with you, dude. Like, it's shot really flatly. There's almost no plot. The soundtrack is really cool. It's all like kind of like upbeat synthy stuff, very stereotypical mid-80s Italo disco type tunes, but and like it's either really really bright or really really dark. It's like the lighting is terrible. Probably the only thing I could compare it to is I don't know if you've seen Devil's Story.
Not yet. It's one I've had on my watch list forever, and I just never get around to because it sounds wild.
Yeah, it's like one of my favorite things that I've seen the past couple of years, and it's not that level of like hysterical, laughter-inducing what the actual fuck is going on here. But it's in the same vein. It'd make like a decent double feature with that. But yeah, Massacre 1989 sucks. It's awesome.
I would say sucks, but is awesome. Sort of fits both of my picks too. So I had 1974's The Centerfold Girls. which isn't good, but totally good.
Was that a Vinegar Syndrome release?
I don't know. I feel like they put it out, but I just watched it on YouTube.
Okay.
And it's essentially just like it's a movie about like police trying to stop this guy who's killing women that pose nude in like magazines. But like it sort of plays out like not like a cohesive story and more like sort of like anthology-ish where it's just like each woman's story, it plays like a separate story, almost barely connected. And
Oh God.
it's kind of interesting. Like I gave it 3 stars. It's totally watchable, and it's got like this, like it almost feels like a someone in the 80s making what they think a 70s movies would feel like, but it was made in the 70s. It's very weird. I kind of recommend. It's on Tubi, it looks like, as well. But
All right.
I followed it up with 1984's Pituitary Hunter,
Oh,
which
I've been wanting to see that so bad.
I watched one of those versions on YouTube where the subtitles are like maybe correct. Like if
Sounds like I was gonna say that sounds like every VCD I bought in Chinatown in the early 2000s.
well, I have a couple movies that I watched where like the subtitles were like part of the film, so that anytime anything on screen was white, you couldn't read them.
Oh, that's my
And so
favorite.
this was like one of them where I was like, I don't know what anyone's saying right now because they're just like talking in front of a white wall, and I can't read any of the subtitles. And it's less of a slasher movie, I guess, than I thought it was. But it's about this. So there, it's like also wildly like problematic in today's standards, where there's this guy who maybe is slash was a doctor and isn't anymore. I'm unclear as to where he stands in his medical profession. Is like using pituitary glands to, you find out like his daughter has some sort of like something going on. I don't know if they explain exactly what it is, but she's just like I guess maybe supposed to be a dwarf. I'm not sure what like the correct term for it was in the movie, and he's trying to for some reason he thinks like injecting her with pituitary juices is going to like fix it, but he had tested it on like somebody before that has now like lost their mind and is trying like is convinced he's stealing pituitary glands away from him. And so he's like going like I don't, it's fucked up. Like the whole plot is like kind of a mess, but you just like it's like most of the movie like until you get to the reveal of like it's just like this other person that like thinks the doctor is like fucking them over. Like it kind of feels a little bit like maybe it's leaning towards like it being like a monster, or maybe some kind of weird like sexual pervert that's like sucking pituitary glands out of people's heads, and then you just find out that no, it was just this guy that's like mad. It's good. I definitely recommend it if like you're into like Cat 3 stuff at all. But it's definitely a movie that like I don't think would work for most people. it's it's definitely a weird one. All right. Day 8 was Canon Films. I had the problem of I've watched all of the good Canon Film stuff at this point.
I'm right there with you.
So I watched 1987's Down Twisted by Albert Pune, which, you know, I will always back an Albert Pune movie, and like this one, like while it's not great, like I gave it 2.5 stars. It like I think it mostly was just kind of boring more than anything else, like, but also like totally watchable, like more. more like drama-y than I thought it was going to be. Like, I kind of like, I'm so used to like Pune's like action forward
Yeah.
stuff, and this one is a little more like drama than anything else, and it's, I don't know, it was fine. I don't really have a whole lot to say about it.
I honestly don't even remember reading about that one in that book.
I can't remember
the Albert Pune one.
It's one of those ones that I feel like the author was more like into. Like, I think Down Twisted's one of the ones that most people consider to be like one of his better movies. But like, I'm here for like Albert Pune just making a weird fucked up movie than just like a real movie.
Yeah. Give me an android hanging out the back of a plane.
Yeah. And I also watched 1986's The Naked Cage, which was bad. Like, I'm on board with women in prison movies, but this one was just boring and not good. I guess I need more of the Italian fare than the American women in prison movies.
Yeah, I know that I've seen like Caged Heat, which is okay, but it's not nearly as good as the Italian ones.
Yeah, this one was just like, you could tell it was very much like, it felt very much like somebody being like, well, I could do that here, and just making a shitty American version of it that just didn't really work. What'd you watch for Canon?
I watched 1990's Keaton's Cop.
I don't think I've seen that.
Well, you should. I was kind of surprised by this one. I went into it expecting that like I was gonna hate every second of it, but let's see. I wrote a little paragraph about each of the movies that I watched. So I'll just highlight some of the details of this one. The first thing I said was, this is the kind of movie my grandfather would really like. Basically because it's got like an older guy who's like the hero action protagonist, and that older guy in this movie is Lee Majors. He's a shitty pet owner. He throws people out of windows for no reasons. The soundtrack to this movie absolutely sucks. He plays piano for a bunch of old people for no reason, and everybody in it treats him like he's a sex symbol, despite the fact that he just looks like he was left out in the sun for too long. Abe Vigoda's in it. He complains constantly about his blood pressure being too high. Don Rickles is in the movie for 24 minutes, almost exactly. He isn't funny. He pisses in an alley, then he gets shot in the back by a shotgun-wielding gay dude, which starts an incredibly dumb and kind of problematic action sequence. Yeah, I wouldn't expect a movie starring Lee Majors from 1990 to really deal with gay characters in any kind of good way. It's not terrible, but it's not great. Abe Vigoda gets wheeled around a stretcher for an entire scene, then spends the entire next one wandering around in handcuffs bitching about his hotel room. The police chief, I think, is supposed to be the comic relief, despite the fact that Don Rickles is in it, but he's not funny at all. It's filmed in Galveston, Texas, and Houston, Texas, and I now know that Galveston looks a lot like Atlantic City, so I never need to go there. Abe Vigoda gets eats a popsicle and gets a haircut, and then goes to a strip club run by a guy that looks like Baron Harkonnen. It's got a baffling ending, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars because why the fuck not?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like, Canon is such hit or miss, and it's like, it sucks that, like, especially right now, I'm like, well, I've watched, the ones that I know are good, so I'm hoping at some point I can dive into like some just extra weird Canon shit that sound like that, where I'm just like, this sucks, but this kind of rocks.
Yeah. Have you seen the documentary about Canon films?
I did, but it's been a while. Like, I don't think I was as familiar with Canon films before I watched it, but I remember being pretty good.
Yeah. There's 2 that have come out. There's one that came out several years ago, which is the one that I saw, and then there's another one that's more specifically about Golan and Globus.
Yeah.
And I haven't watched that one yet, but I do remember that other one being really good, and them kind of highlighting some stuff that they talked a lot about how the production was a disaster, but like I've seen it later on. Like I love it. I mean, like the canon Captain America movie is amazing.
Oh, it's so good. All right, we'll jump to day 9. Fred Williamson. What did you watch for Fred Williamson?
I watched Night Vision from 1997. And this was one of my favorite things that I watched for Junesploitation. 4 out of 5 stars, renewed my faith in cinema. There are so many random music cuts and errors in this movie. It is hilarious. Williamson has bad knees, which I think is also true in real life, but they're like a frequent topic of discussion in the movie. Cynthia Rothrock is in this, and she has a look on her face the entire time of like somebody who's been obligated to go to a party for a relative that they hate.
Oh, yeah.
The best supporting actor award for this one has got to go to Bushwick Bill from the Ghetto Boys, who happens to be in this.
Shit.
He wears a top hat and he lives in a sober house with Fred Williamson.
Incredible.
And Robert Forster is in this for like 5 minutes total. And then he gets shot and he looks relieved because it means that he doesn't have to be in the movie anymore. It's the kind of thing that Chuck Norris wishes that he was still making in 1997. It's a perfect movie. Everybody should watch it.
Checks out. I watched 1983's Warrior of the Lost World.
Yes.
Which was fine. If you've seen any Italian like post-apocalyptic movie, you know what you're getting into. It's like, I feel like it's like maybe mid-tier for most of the ones I've seen, but like still pretty watchable.
Yeah, I would agree with you there, but I've got a soft spot for those, and I'm a big fan of that one.
I'll watch any of them, but it's like, especially after watching like Warrior of the Year 2072, I think, or like the Bronx Warrior movies and shit, I'm like, yeah, this was fine, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then I watched 2000's Submerged, a Fred Olen Ray movie starring Coolio, who is the lead actor in the movie, but is in it for maybe 4 minutes. About a plane that crashes into the ocean and sinks to the ocean floor and then has to be rescued by Fred Williamson as a Navy captain, maybe?
Question mark.
It's extremely stupid. It's like only recommended if you are into any of the dumb shit we cover on I Hope You Suffer. Like, it's very ridiculous. One of the, like, it's fucking people trapped in a plane on the ocean floor. So, not a lot of real action going on in it, but, watchable.
What was that one called again? Submerged?
Yeah.
All right. Cool. I'm keeping a list of things that you're talking about that I'm like, well, that's what I'm doing with my evening tonight.
Like, Coolio plays like a criminal in it that is like at the very beginning of the movie and then pops in for like a minute in the middle of it, from what I remember, but has like nothing to do with like the plane. I don't understand why he was in it or why he's like the main cast member of it, but whatever.
Sounds like some of those movies where like Snoop Dogg is in them, but like they got like stock footage of him and just like interjected it into the film for no reason.
I mean, I'm on board. Put Snoop Dogg in every movie. So day 10, Kung Fu. I watched 1981's Lady Street Fighter.
Nice.
Which sucks but rules.
I mean, I've got that's another one that I've got a soft spot for. But I definitely do not think it's a great movie.
No, it's pretty bad. But as far as it's bad in the way like most Agfa movies are bad, but all rule. I don't know. I found out there's a sequel that's like 98% just the first movie with like a couple new scenes, and I was like, yeah I'm not watching that, because I was like, maybe I'll do back to back for Kung Fu, watch both of them, and I was like, oh no, I can't watch this again. Like, immediately.
Yeah, that one is bad.
And I also watched Master of the Flying Guillotine, which is a fucking banger.
That movie's great.
It's so good. I'd seen it once before, but it had been a long time, so this was like a rewatch that I need to watch this more often. It's so good. the fucking simple like effect of the flying guillotine makes no sense, and it rocks.
Like, defies all logic, and it's amazing.
It's just like throwing a fucking like a beekeeper helmet on someone and then just pulls their head off. It rocks. What'd you watch for Kung Fu?
I watched The Convict Killer from 1980.
I don't know what that
is. It's a later era Shaw Brothers movie. It's got a lot of a lot of familiar faces. There's a lot of guys from the Venom series and all, all their standards.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's not my favorite Shaw Brothers movie. It's, it takes place at that point in time where there was starting to be a lot more Western influence in Chinese culture. So you see, like, for example, the main character wears like a fedora, but then is wearing like your stereotypical like Shaw Brothers Kung Fu movie garb. T. Lung plays the convict killer. He carries around this like heavy ass iron chain that he just beats the shit out of people with. And Tony Liu is in it. He shows up as kind of like this mystery. Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? But it's a pretty good performance from him. Typical Shaw Brothers fashion, like all the sets are obviously built indoors, but I love that kind of like surreal, dreamlike look to them, where you can tell that it's a matte painting in the background, but like it's still you can set aside that and enjoy how much work went into that set.
Oh yeah.
And every time I watch like a Shaw Brothers film or one of the Golden Harvest productions from this point in time, it's like I just find myself going, man, there is a point in time where they could have choreographed fight scenes that didn't involve a million cuts every single minute. Oh my
god, it's like the one I always think about the most is I don't know if it has an alternate title. The only way I know it as is Crippled Avengers.
Oh, so good.
Where, like, there's the fight scene towards the end where the guy's using those rings or whatever.
Yeah.
And they'll have, like, it'll be, like, a solid, like, 3 or 4 minutes of this, like, choreography with, like, no cuts. And I'm like, God damn, I can't imagine how much work went into this. Just, it's plotting it out.
Yeah, it's bonkers. Like, this one's got some pretty decent fight scenes. They definitely give them some space to breathe. They're shot on, in a wider aspect. So everybody's more or less staying in the middle of the frame. So, you get like same thing, like 3 or 4 minutes of just straight choreography. It's not as good as some of the other Shaw Brothers productions, but I've seen a lot of the really top tier ones, as I'm sure a lot of people have, but this is worth checking out.
Oh yeah. I mean, I feel like if I ever see anything where I'm like, I don't know what this is, and I see Shaw Brothers, I'm like, I'm in. I don't care what it is. I'll watch it.
Yeah.
All right. Day 11, 80s horror. What'd you have for 80s horror?
I'm probably gonna get a lot of heat for this one, but I'm gonna go with it anyways. I watched 1980s Christmas Evil.
Oh yeah.
And I did not like it.
It's a very I think it's a movie that you either love or you hate.
Yeah, I mean, I know that like John Waters says that like it's his like either his favorite film or like his favorite horror film or something like that. And I mean, you and I have talked about Waters. Like I love his work. But this is, I don't know. I thought this was painfully dull. About the most interesting thing in it is that Fiona Apple's dad is the main character in it. But
what what's your take on the ending?
I mean, I could watch the last 30 seconds of it just on a continuous loop and laugh hysterically.
So I had bought it like randomly when Troma put it out because I had at some point I had I don't know, almost everything Troma had released on DVD.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that movie a lot. I also fully understand why people don't like it. And we covered it on I Hope You Suffer 1 year around Christmas, and we were having a debate on whether the ending is real or he's imagining it as he's dying, and when he just goes flying into the air in his fucking van or whatever.
Yeah, it's I'm trying to think of the word to describe it. I mean, I think that he's kind of like lost it completely at that point in time, and he's hallucinating while he's dying. But it's an ending.
It's an interesting like ending that you don't expect out of that movie.
No, not at all. I would have expected more like the van just crashes and explodes. I wasn't expecting this like pseudo metaphorical like does he, doesn't he, you know.
Yeah. It's one of those movies that I feel like most people go into it expecting it to be like more of a slasher movie, and it's a lot more of like a character study than like
Absolutely
anything else. And so I feel like the promotion, the way it's like promoted to people, kind of like leads them into like something that they don't get, that they then are just like, oh, well, this sucks.
Yeah, I went into it expecting probably something more along the lines of like Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Yeah.
Like you said, more of a slasher film, and it is. It's more of a character study. I will say that I can't decide whether or not the main character watching the kid cut out the centerfold of a Penthouse magazine is more disturbing than the fact that the small child is looking at porn. I don't know. I mean, I can't decide which is the problematic aspect of that scene.
All right. So I watched 1985's Hongdu Mirror, aka Dragon Against Vampire, which is another one where it's a bad movie, but I kind of loved it. I'll just read the letterbox description because it pretty much tells you everything you need to know. 3 goofy, unsuccessful thieves wander around robbing graves, eating dogs, getting attacked by hands that burst from the ground, and acting unconsciously stupid. They come to an old inn and find out that a vampire has been preying on virginal young girls in the area. 2 of the thieves and the innkeeper are killed, so the remaining thief tries to protect the innkeeper's beautiful daughter and avenge his friends.
That's a lot.
It's like, I think it's a Hong Kong movie. No, it's Korean. It's more of a comedy than I was expecting it to be. But the poster art for it, if you just look up Dragon Against Vampire, is incredible. And I was like, I am watching this movie immediately. And I did not expect it to be like almost Three Stooges level, like slapstick comedy. But I recommend it if you like really stupid, goofy 80s sort of horror comedy movies. I also watched 1989's The Fly 2, which I had never gotten around to, and it's fine. It's not The Fly, but there's some pretty sick, gross effects in it still.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely, like, it's definitely, I would say, worth watching, but also, like, I don't know if I'll ever watch it again.
Yeah, that's one that I haven't seen either, and I've heard the same thing from other people I know that have watched it.
It's like, it's one of those ones where the setup for it is just too long that by the time you get to like all of the gross effects, or it's you've kind of lost interest in the film.
Yeah.
But yeah, I expected way worse due to like, I feel like, I guess maybe for a while I would listen to like Mick Garris's podcast where he would talk about how much he like didn't like the final product because I think he wrote it or something, and like, I don't know, I expected it to just be like borderline unwatchable. And so for the first like 30 minutes I was like, oh my god, this is fucking terrible. But then once like people start, you know, once somebody turns into The Fly, it kind of rocks.
Yeah. Which is what you're there for anyways.
I mean, I guess you could sort of say, like, you could, like, if it wasn't for, like, Cronenberg's directing and the fact that you had, like, Goldblum and, I'm blanking on her name.
Gina Davis.
Like, I feel like you could probably say the same thing about the original, or, like, you know, the Cronenberg version of The Fly. Where, like, you know, it takes a while for, like, anything gross to happen, but, like, you know, Goldblum and Davis are so like charismatic and like fun to watch, and Cronenberg is obviously like an incredible director, so it kind of makes up for it. Day 12 was Westerns, and I had the worst movie I've watched and maybe one of the best I watched for this day. I watched 2015's The Ridiculous Six, the fucking Adam Sandler Netflix movie. which was the worst thing I think I've ever watched. Just brutally unfunny. Adam Sandler plays maybe Native American in it. Unclear, because I think or maybe he's like Native American and white man, and it's not great, gotta say.
We talked about that, I think, like over Instagram one evening.
Like the only aspect of it that's even remotely redeemable is like Will Forte in it as like one of the bad guys, but he's like one of the stupid bad guys. And that's about it. Everything else in this movie was just fucking unwatchable. Taylor Lautner's in it as like one of like it's you find out that like it's like Adam Sandler, Taylor Lautner, Terry Crews, Luke Wilson, and Danny Trejo all find out that they're brothers or like half brothers from like the same dad, and like they're trying to like find their dad. I don't know. It sucks. I don't. It's easily one of the worst things I've ever watched. And then I followed it up with 1973's Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid.
Oh, nice!
Which is a fucking banger. It's I'm like a Bob Dylan fan, so it's been on my list for like a long time. But like westerns are so hard for me to get through that like I kept putting it off, and it's very good.
Yeah, I have not seen that one, but I've heard it's another one I've heard like universally good things over the years about, and I just keep putting off watching it for some stupid reason. Because I don't mind westerns all that much, as long as they're good. But there's tons of garbage level ones.
Yeah, like it's just in general a genre that you have to do something really interesting to hold my attention, especially with how many of them will be like 2.5 hours long or some shit.
Yeah, way longer than they need to be.
But I mean, like this one's like James Coburn, Chris Christopherson, fucking Bob Dylan acting in it for some reason. I don't know. It's really good. What'd you watch for westerns?
I watched Keoma from 1976. Enzo G. Castellari making a genuinely good movie. Yeah, it's Franco Nero's the lead in it. He's like the typical steely-eyed, strong, silent type.
Yeah.
But I'll watch anything that he's in. He's always compelling on screen and all. But yeah, it's got a little bit of a slow start to get going. They definitely take their time, kind of building the world and circumstances that Keoma is involved in and all. But yeah, the ending shootout is pretty satisfying. Woody Strode is in it, and he murders the absolute shit out of a bunch of people with a bow and arrow, which is always great. But yeah, I think the only thing that bothered me about it was the print on Tubi is pretty beat looking, but there's an Arrow. Yeah, there's an Arrow 2K restoration of it that I'm absolutely going to pick up. And the soundtrack to the movie is one of the worst things I've ever heard in my entire life. It's like a mashup of, I don't know, like unreleased Nico B-sides that should have never seen the light of day. And that's coming from somebody that loves a Velvet Underground and Nico, but like there's a female vocalist that's the only thing I can compare her to, just devoid of any kind of talent whatsoever. It's terrible.
When I first signed up for like Arrow's streaming service, they had like a bunch of stuff in like playlists for like 70s, 80s, and maybe 90s. And I think I watched that, and I can't fully remember because I feel like any of the westerns on there, I was like, I don't know, I'm gonna half pay attention to this.
Yeah.
All right. Day 13 was Animals. What'd you have for Animals?
I watched Man's Best Friend from 1993.
Oh, hell yeah.
Dude, perfect movie.
It's so good.
Absolutely perfect movie. I was so happy that I finally got around to watching this. The only contact that I had with it prior to watching the movie was they advertised it pretty heavily in a lot of comic books, like around 92, 93, and I remember the full page like ads to the full covers of the comics being the movie poster for it. And and also too, like, knowing that Lance Henriksen was in it,
Yeah.
and I'll watch anything that Lance Henriksen is in.
Same.
And this was just this like completely surpassed every expectation that I had for it. It was weird seeing Ali Sheedy in something from the 90s. I'm just so used to seeing her in 80s films. Right. But yeah, Lance Henriksen's a goddamn national treasure. Like, the guy's a complete psycho in the role. Like, he's chain smokes in a fashion that only somebody who actually smokes in real life can. He's like literally he'll like be finishing a cigarette, he'll take it out of his mouth and he'll light the next one with it before he puts it out. I really like the anti-vivisection, pro animal rights message of the movie. It's got an agenda, but it also isn't shoving it down your throat, which I would have been fine with because, I'm not into that shit. I thought it was really funny, and this is kind of like a super nerdy thing to say, but like Ali Sheedy's boyfriend is a gigantic dick in the movie, and he has what appears to be like a brand new Jeep. And from the get-go, one of the plot points is the Jeep is constantly broken. And I was like, well, that's kind of on brand. But yeah, the dog that's in it is adorable, and he's a genius. And he's got a ton of special abilities that a dog shouldn't have that are awesome. Swallows a cat.
Hell yeah. The movie's so good. Like, I feel like people cast Lance Henriksen and like don't let him be Lance Henriksen. It's like if you cast Nick Cage and you're just like, hey, tone it down a little bit. It's like, no, you bring Lance Henriksen to be a fucking weirdo in your movie. Okay, so I watched 1999's Komodo, which I have on VHS that I randomly found at a thrift store, and it's not good. It's like, there's like an animatronic Komodo dragon in it that looks incredible, but like the story's just fucking boring. Like, it's like the worst version of like a Sci-Fi Channel like Animal Attacks movie.
Okay.
And so like honestly, everything in it sucks except for this animatronic Komodo dragon, which looks legitimate. Like, it looks like Jurassic Park dinosaur levels of like realistic. Like, it's kind of incredible, and I assume every bit of money went to that instead of the script.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I was just looking at the the cover for the DVD release, and it says, from the writer of Anaconda and the special effects creator of Jurassic Park. So there you go.
That makes sense. Yeah. And I also watched 1979's Lewd Lizard, which was a fucking movie.
Oh man, I have wanted to see that one since I first heard about it.
I don't know if it's worth watching. It's kind of bad, but it's baffling to watch, so it's kind of like holds your interest, but like it's not good. I don't remember how I stumbled across it. It had to have been on Letterboxd, because the description on Letterboxd is insane. A young suitor loses his girlfriend to a wealthy businessman. At first he's angry, then in a fit of depression he goes to the seashore where he finds lizards. Immediately he puts the lizards into a bag and takes them home. Then he becomes obsessed with ladies' dirty underwear, and he steals 6 or 7 quote-unquote tainted ones from public restrooms and brothels. At this point the man mixes the juices from the underwear with a special aggressive compound and then injects the fluid into lizards. The little reptiles, now hooked on quote-unquote love juice, become soldiers in his personal battle against females. Like, it's fucking weird movie. That, like,
God,
it's bad. Like, the acting in it's bad. It's shot badly. Like, it just overall as a movie sucks. But like, it's fucking wild. There's a scene where like this one woman's being attacked by lizards, but she's also sort of sexually into it, and it's like writhing around, and I was like, this is fucking one of the craziest things I've ever seen. And it's also like, I also watched it in like a really shitty like YouTube rip. So, like...
yeah, isn't that one of those ones that, like, is... there hasn't been, like, a proper release since the VHS days or something like that?
I can't imagine this is a movie a lot of people are clamoring for, like, a 4K release of. but I don't know. Maybe I could see like it seems like something that would be up like Error 444 or whatever's like like them releasing it. But
yeah,
I feel like there's so much like other out of print sort of Cat 3 stuff that like this is probably not high up on the list.
Gotcha. I will probably still watch it.
I mean, I feel like knowing your taste, you would probably. It's one of those ones I feel like you'll be like, yeah, this sucks, but like, I knocked it off the watch list, so that's something.
Yeah.
Day 14 was Free Space, and I watched two things I had physical media for. The first one, Purani Havali from the Bollywood Crypt box set.
Okay.
It's a Ramsey Brothers movie. I think everything in it is. And, yeah, all of the movies in that box set kind of rock, but also are all, like, this is 145 minutes. Like, every Bollywood movie. God. So it's just one of those things where it's like, at a certain point, I was like, I cannot pay attention to this anymore.
Yeah.
I recommend that box set. I don't recommend doing what I did, which is watch almost all of them back to back over a couple days, because like they just blur together. But like, I don't know, for like the budget of the movies, like they do some pretty impressive things special effects wise, like. All of the scenery is all pretty fucking incredible looking. Like, you know, it's a Bollywood movie, so there's like fucking dance numbers every like 15 minutes or so. So that's like a thing I know a lot of people can't handle, but I don't know, it's fine. I'd recommend it. Like that whole box set's pretty fun. They're all movies I think I need to spend some more time with to really get a grasp on. Because it's one of those things where, like, I was paying so close attention to, like, the subtitles that, like, I really want to watch it again and, like, pay attention to, like, the actual, like, scenery and actual acting in it now that I have, like, a grasp on what the movie's about.
Yeah.
And then this was, like, the one that I had rewatched recently, the only one on my list, 2019's Mr. America. Which for this I mostly just rewatched it because I wanted to listen to the audio commentary with Tim Heidecker and Greg Turkington. And perfect movie. Everybody go watch Mr. America, but you also have to watch like 10 hours of on cinema first.
Yeah, you recommended that to me, and I have not taken a full deep dive yet, but I've watched several episodes of On Cinema, and it is exactly as advertised.
Yeah. You pretty much, like, for Mr. America, you really have to watch. They made a 4-hour, completely straight, court TV style trial of Tim Heidecker first.
Yeah.
And it's one of the like greatest things I've ever watched because they play it so dry, like it's like a straight up actual court trial that then leads into this like mockumentary about this fake version of Tim Heidecker running for like the DA of San Bernardino County, and I don't know, it's great. What did you watch for Free Space?
I watched what ended up being arguably my favorite thing that I watched for Junesploitation, and that was 2018's Knife Plus Heart.
Oh, so good.
You and I have already talked a little bit back and forth about this, and I watched it basically on your suggestion, and I had it on my queue on Shudder for the longest time and just wasn't making time for it, and when I finally did, I was so glad I did. I've watched this movie, I think 4 times since I watched it on the 14th of June.
I think that's how I was when I first watched this. I watched it like probably like 2 or 3 times at least the first month I watched it.
Yeah, it's and I don't mean this in like a sarcastic way. It's a perfect movie. There is nothing that happens in the plot that does not contribute to the overall storyline or that goes unresolved. Even as avant-garde as it gets at certain points during it, everything contributes to the general storyline, which is rare, especially for an arty film, something that's not, not typical Hollywood fare. But man, everything about it I love. It's beautiful looking. The soundtrack is absolutely amazing. Yeah. I've been listening to the soundtrack like constantly lately ever since I saw it.
It's, I think, the best version of a modern giallo, and maybe probably the only good version of a modern giallo. I feel like for the most part, anytime I see that phrase, I'm like, "Ugh, this is probably gonna be fucking terrible." But they fucking nail it.
Yeah, I have not seen. They're the same ones that did Death Drop Gorgeous, right?
No.
That's Saint Drogo.
Saint Drogo, yeah.
Which I absolutely cannot wait to see. But no, I will watch anything that this director makes going forward.
Yeah,
because it was amazing.
Yeah, it's so good. It's like you said, it feels so painstakingly detailed and the 70s and giallo and just sort of that sex film world. They just, I don't know, they nail it.
Yeah, and it's odd too because we could talk forever about this because I know that we both really like this movie, but there's nothing about it too that feels sleazy, which is weird.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but I was totally expecting, reading a description of it, that it was gonna dip into sleaze territory, but more or less deal with the subject matter in a respectable fashion, and it doesn't feel sleazy at all at any point in time.
The only miss about that movie is that they did not film and release the movies being made in the movie because I want to see them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would definitely, if they released a box set with short versions of those films, I would totally watch them.
Yeah. All right, day 15, rip-offs. What'd you have for rip-offs?
I watched Shocking Dark from 1989.
Oh hell yeah.
Oh boy, this was something. It's very entertaining. It is almost at least as far as dialogue goes, it is almost a line for line remake of Aliens. Yeah. The monsters look like shit. They're rejected humanoid from the Deep costumes. And you can tell that they only had one costume, because even though you're led to believe that there's multiple monsters, you only ever see one on film. But yeah, there's a couple of great shots of dummies being thrown off of ledges, and it looks really bad. Definitely filmed in an abandoned high school or factory, wherever they could get the cheapest. It's not filmed in Venice.
Yeah.
And then randomly it turns into a Terminator ripoff in the third act.
Well, every movie should.
Yeah. I'm on board with that, but yeah, I was not expecting to go that way. My favorite part of the movie is there's a scene where the child actor in it, the movie's Newt, if you're familiar with the 86 Aliens at all, who spends a lot of time screaming and is just so irritating. She just randomly falls down what is obviously a playground slide for no reason. Just for, I guess, added drama or adding some tension to the movie, but it's kind of too little too late. It's a gigantic piece of shit, and I loved it. Yeah, 3 out of 5.
I watched 2021's Planet Dune, which is Asylum's version of Dune, and it's fucking hot garbage. It's literally just people get trapped on a planet and they're sandworms. The end. It sucks. Do not recommend.
Do the sandworms look terrible?
They're just CGI sandworms. They look fine for Asylum, but not great. But I also watched 1980's Puma Man, which is I think Italian. Yeah, it's Italy's answer to What If We Made a Superman movie? Yeah. And Donald Pleasance was in it for some reason. And it's incredible. It's a lot more Greatest American Hero than Superman. But like this dude like gets the powers of a puma, which apparently mean flying and turn invisible.
As pumas do.
Yes, and it rocks. It's another one of those ones where I was like, this movie fucking terrible, but I gave it 4 stars.
Awesome.
Highly recommend. I think it's on like YouTube is maybe where I watched it. If you like really stupid superhero movies or you're into Italian cinema, high recommend. Day 16 was Yakuza, and I had 2 not great movies for this. I watched 1981's Sailor Suit and Machine Girl, which has an incredible title and a premise about a high school girl inheriting a Yakuza clan when her dad dies. And it's fucking boring. For having the title with machine gun in it, there is a massive lack of machine guns in this movie.
Yeah, that's always sounded like it's going to be a total banger, and I have not watched it yet. And I'm not going to now.
It's literally, like, it's, like, acting-wise, it's fine, and there's some pretty fucking great, like, scenes that'll be, like, a solid, like, 8 to 10 minute scene all in one shot. That's pretty great. Like, there's a scene where, like, this girl and, like, some of the Yakuza are, like, hanging out that turns into, like, a motorcycle drive through the city, all through, like, this 10-minute shot. That's kind of incredible, but plot-wise, it's just really boring. And then I watched 1994's Bodyguard Kiba, Apocalypse of Carnage, which is a Takashi Miike movie that, or maybe it's part of a TV show. I'm kind of have no idea what this was, but it also was not good. Did not hold my attention. It's, I think, a sequel to something I didn't watch the previous for. It's only like 60 minutes, so I feel like this might be part of like a TV series maybe, but it was just kind of boring.
Yeah, that's a Miike movie that I am not familiar with. I really like the majority of his stuff that I've seen. There's a couple that I'm kind of middle of the road on, but
yeah, it's just like, I don't know. It felt like a hired work job as opposed to something he actually wanted to do. Maybe, I'm not really sure, but
yeah, and you really got to kind of just let him do his thing.
Yeah. What'd you watch for Yakuza?
This was another one that I rated really highly. I watched The Machine Gun Dragon from 1976, starring Bunta Sugawara, and he's like my new favorite Japanese actor. I literally want to see like everything the guy was in. He's like super charismatic. He's got great facial expressions. But this movie it's fucking awesome. It's bloody. It's violent. There's very little downtime in it. There's always something happening. And all of it just kind of continues to push the plot along. Late 70s Tokyo, you got like awesome fashion and music. There's at least one great scene that takes place in like a nightclub, with like a live band playing and like go-go dancers and stuff like that. It's a cool like slice of time that I really enjoy movies from. Yeah. And like Sugawara, he's got no loyalty to anybody. It's like he's got loyalty to himself and his money. That's it. But yeah, highly recommend if you can find a copy of this. I will admit that I came by this through less than legal means. But yeah, awesome movie. And like I said, I want to see everything else this guy is in. I think he's in the majority of like the Battles Without Honor and Humanity movies, because I have seen most of those and I knew I recognized him from somewhere.
Yeah, those Battles Without Honor movies are great.
Yeah. Oh, you get a Sonny Chiba cameo in this too, and you literally can't go wrong with anything that Sonny Chiba's in.
100%. All right, day 17 was Fulci. What'd you watch for Fulci?
I watched 1980s Contraband.
Oh yeah, I haven't gotten to that yet.
Oh, you're in for a treat.
Yeah, that's one I've been like holding off on for like whatever reason.
Yeah, I watched it on, I think I watched it on Tubi, and I really wish that I had just blind bought the 4K restoration of it, and seen it in that, that kind of condition, because the print on Tubi is a little rough,
Yeah.
like most of them are, but yeah, it's just a banger from beginning to end. Fabio Testi's leading it. He fucking rules so much. And anybody that thinks for whatever reason that Fulci was only capable of making super gory horror movies, he was capable of a whole hell of a lot more than that. Not that this is absent of Fulci-esque gore, but yeah, 4.5 out of 5 easily.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely one of the best things I watched all month long.
I watched 1983's Conquest.
Nice.
Which, totally fine. I think it's a movie I need to sit with again. It would probably bump my rating up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally interesting. Not my favorite sort of like genre of movie, but like Fulci had like a pretty interesting take on like this sort of fantasy-esque movie. And then I watched 1988's Touch of Death, which was fine. Sort of along the lines of like you said, like it kind of felt like one of those made-for-TV movies he like kind of did towards the end of his career, and like I don't know, it's fine. There's like Fulci's one of those directors that even like the stuff I've watched from, like, it's not a story I care about. It still looks like a Fulci movie, so it kind of rules. But probably not one I'm like, eager to rewatch anytime soon.
Yeah, I had to just look at Letterboxd to see if that's one that I've seen, and I have not seen that one.
I don't know. It's fine. It's like very mid-tier, like horror, like Fulci. There's definitely like easily like 15 movies I would tell people to watch before it, at least.
Yeah. Don't start with this one.
So day 18 was 90s comedy. I watched 1996's Black Sheep, which I had not seen since 1996, and it holds up, sort of. I was expecting it to be way more sort of like shitty 90s comedy, like,
yeah, hyper problematic.
Yeah, but like Chris Farley fucking killing it. Like, I don't remember this one being as like of him. Like, for some reason in my mind I remember this being a lot more Billy Madison-esque, where it's just like extremely stupid kind of comedy throughout, and he's like pretty like heartwarming in it and stuff. Like, he's like, I don't know, Chris Farley was great, and he's killing it in this. Story wise, it's like whatever, but like I feel like anyone else in the lead role of this movie, it would have been a massive flop. And then I watched Tu Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar.
Oh, great movie.
Which was very good, but I was expecting it to be a straight up like road movie and not a these people show up in this small town and like fix everything movie.
Yeah.
So like halfway through I was like, when the fuck are they getting back in their car and driving? And Caitlin was like, no, this is like the rest of the movie. And I was like, God damn it. I was really hoping it was going to be a sort of Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back sort of like hijinks movie with these like drag queens going across America. But for what it is, it's totally good. Like, Wesley Snipes killing it. Patrick Swayze also killing it.
Oh yeah, he's fantastic in that. It's what, John Leguizamo, right? Yeah. It's been a little bit since I've seen that one, but I do remember really enjoying that and kind of being surprised by how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and it's also like, I was like, it's another one that I was like, with this subject matter, like I was just bracing for like just wildly problematic shit, and like it's surprisingly not. Like it holds up. Definitely recommend if you haven't seen it. What'd you have for 90s comedy?
So I really wanted to watch Screwed The
the
Norm Macdonald comedy.
It's never.
But then I checked. Yeah, I found a copy of it. And then I found out that it was like made in like 2000 or 2001, so that disqualified it.
I guess that's true. For some reason, I thought it was like 98, 99.
I would have assumed that it was too. Because I saw Dirty Work for the first time recently and absolutely loved it.
So good.
So yeah, it was so. I laughed way harder at it than I expected to, but and I can't wait to watch it at some point in time. Anyway, for 90s comedy, I watched Jawbreaker from 1999.
Oh hell
yeah. And it was good. It was definitely better than I expected. I really enjoy Mean Girls. And I was expecting something along those lines, which it is not. But yeah, it was pretty good. I remember a lot of people in high school making references to the movie, but because I was a film snob in high school, Jawbreaker was not anything I would have been caught dead watching. And now I understand where all those references from 24 years ago came from. So
I don't think I've seen that since the 90s. I should give that a rewatch. It's been like that. I remembered really liking it. I'd be interested to see how it holds up for me.
Yeah, I mean, for a first time view, it was fine.
Yeah.
And again, another 90s comedy that's surprisingly not super problematic. I feel like there was a couple of things I was a little about, but for the most part, it's okay.
Yeah.
So, and if you were in high school in the 90s, like we were, there's a lot of music that you probably either really liked or really hated. The soundtrack's interesting.
Yeah. What so day 19, Blaxploitation. What'd you have for Blaxploitation?
I watched Cotton Comes to Harlem from 1970.
Oh yeah, how is that? I've had that on my watch list for a while.
It is awesome. It was so much fun. This was another one of easily a 4 out of 5 for me for the month. The two main characters are awesome. There's a lot of there's things in it that remind me almost of somebody trying to film a comic book. There's just some stuff that happens in certain scenes that it's funny and it's over the top in a very comic book fashion. People getting punched into the air and stuff like that. But then there's deadly serious action sequences. There's a really well shot shootout in a shipyard at one point in time that's great. Directed by Ozzie Davis. Which I knew that he was a director. I had never seen anything that he had actually directed prior to this. And it's a really well-made film. It looks good. If you compare it to something else, most people that I know's contact with the genre is Dolomite, which is entertaining in its ineptitude. This is actually a really good movie. The antagonist is played by this actor Calvin Lockhart, and he's fantastic. His love interest is an actress by the name of Judy Pace, and she is fantastic. She definitely displays the most range in the movie out of all the characters, but she's got this great speech at one point in time, and also they definitely give people something to work with. There is a sequel to it that I have not heard great things about, but I'm probably going to check it out anyways because I really enjoyed this one. So yeah, 4 out of 5.
Oh yeah. I watched 1974's The House on Skull Mountain, which was pretty good, but when you get to the end and it's the one white dude in the movie that isn't a cop ends up being the hero, and you're kind of okay, well, this just turned very white savior-y for a blaxploitation movie. But it's basically this group of people show up to this house that is on Skull Mountain, as the title would tell you, and I don't know, voodoo's happening, and this voodoo priest is fucking with people, and then it's just, I don't know, this white dude saves the one black lady that's still left at the end of it.
Interesting.
Yeah, like it's totally watchable, but also it's like one of those ones where I'm like, I don't know, like again, kind of like mid-tier blaxploitation from what I've seen. But then I watched Dr. Black, Mr. Hyde, which is a fucking banger.
All right.
About this black doctor that turns into a white man that kills sex workers. And fucking
Wow.
like he like anytime he transforms, they just do that sort of like Eddie Murphy SNL like white man makeup on him. And like it looks like shit, and everyone in the movie like will just like can't tell. I don't know. It's crazy, but it rocks. It's the best idea for a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde movie.
Oh my God.
I cannot recommend enough.
I definitely wrote that down.
Yeah,
as something to watch.
It's currently on Tubi and Pluto, so you can watch it pretty easily. It's pretty fucking amazing. All right, day 20, another free space. I watched Vinegar Syndrome's release of The Beast in Space, which was not great. Apparently supposed to be an, I think, Italian sequel to The Beast, which rocks. And this was mostly kind of boring and not enough sex for a sex, like a hardcore, quote unquote, supposed to be a hardcore sex film, I think.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I don't know. It's a very weird idea because, like, The Beast is, like, takes place during, like, I don't know, the fucking, what's, like, I'm trying to...
It's like Victorian era, right?
And then this one takes place, like, in space.
Interesting.
I don't know. It's fine. I'll definitely probably watch it again at some point, but the first watch did not strike me very well. But I followed that up with 1996's Viva Erotica, which may be the best movie I think I watched all Junesploitation.
Wow.
Connie released it, which is like they are a partner label through Vinegar Syndrome. And it's one I bought. I think Sam Deegan either has a commentary track on it or like recommended it, so I grabbed it, and it's this sort of like romantic comedy / drama about the making of a Cat 3 movie. And it's pretty fucking great. Like, I was shocked how much I loved it. And it's about like this dude who is desperately trying to be a filmmaker, but like keeps failing with these movies and gets hired to make a Cat 3 sex film. And, you know, like it's like considered to be like bottom of the barrel in Hong Kong at the time. And he doesn't want to do it, but it's like his last chance to like really make a movie and maybe get his film career going. And the main actress in the movie he's making is like the daughter of the like crime syndicate that's like funding the movie, and she like it's supposed to be a sex film, but she's like refuses to be topless in it, doesn't want to actually like kiss the other actor that's in it, is kind of being like a diva-ish, and the whole movie ends up revolving around him sort of like them kind of like her and the director kind of possibly deciding, or like kind of like they like tease them essentially becoming a couple, while the director is like finding his niche making this movie while his relationship with his partner's falling apart. And like, I don't know, really really fucking good. Cannot recommend enough, especially if you have like knowledge of Cat 3 films. It's kind of an interesting premise of like somebody making a Cat 3 film. Definitely recommend. If you could pick up the Blu-ray, definitely grab it. It's fucking, like I said, probably maybe the only 5-star movie on my list. I think, well, Mr. America, I got 5 stars as well. But I think that might be the only 5-star on my Junesploitation list.
I just looked at the letterbox. It's got a pretty stacked cast too. Leslie Chung, Shuchi, Elvis Choi, Anthony Wong's in it.
Yeah, it's fucking it's I cannot recommend enough. I doubt it's necessarily streaming free anywhere, but I'm sure you can find it through other means if you don't want to buy a Blu-ray.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a vote like that compels me to just blind buy it and probably end up enjoying it.
Yeah, I think like it's like I said, it's a lot more like romantic comedy and like drama than anything else, but like the acting in it, the way it's shot, it's all fucking really good. Like it immediately went into my top 4 on Letterboxd.
Wow. Is it actually a Cat 3 movie,
No,
or is it just about the
it's about
production
the
of one?
making of one, and so like there's like
Okay.
some nudity, but there's no violence or gore in it like whatsoever. It's essentially about the making of like a softcore film if you were doing it in like American terms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, high recommend. What do you have for Free Space?
Let's see here. Oh, this was the worst thing I watched the entire month by a long shot. I watched The Return of the Exorcist from 1975. If you want to torture yourself, it's on
Is that
Tubi.
number 2? Or no, that's not the Exorcist sequel.
No. This is a knockoff, utter dog shit Exorcist ripoff film. If you basically take The Exorcist, you swap the priest out with a nun, Reagan with a male protagonist, even though he doesn't really do a whole hell of a lot. And then every single good thing about the original movie, you might get this. The print is terrible. The audio quality is awful, so that doesn't help at all. It almost comes across like it might have been like a attempt at making a Exorcist sexploitation ripoff. Because there's like a bunch of dumb-looking satanic shit and gratuitous nudity, but like nothing that makes it even remotely interesting. To be honest, like because I was watching on Tubi, I did get an ad during it, and the Bounty paper towels commercial was better than the movie was. It took 2 directors to make this, which I can only assume, given how terrible it is, that like somebody dropped off midway through production. They had somebody else finish it up.
Always a good sign.
Yeah, but one of the 2 directors made a bunch of pornos at one point in time, and I don't want to see any of them. Like 0.5 because it's a movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was terrible. Definitely the worst thing I watched all month long.
Bummer.
Yeah,
day 21, Aliens. What do you have for Aliens?
I watched The Hidden from 1987.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet.
Oh, this is another one that I feel like you're really going to enjoy it when you watch it. This was like got super high rating from me. I think I gave it a 4 out of 5 on Letterboxd. You got Kyle MacLachlan in it. He's definitely like, this is pre Twin Peaks, but there's definitely a lot of Dale Cooper from Twin Peaks in the character that he plays in this. And yeah, I mean, I don't want to give too much of it away, but there's some like body snatchers elements to it. But it's like a total cocaine California mid-80s fueled version of the Body Snatcher story, and it's really good.
Yeah, I need to get around to that. So ignore what I said, the previous one. The Beast in Space was technically one of my Alien ones. I fucked up my list. My other Free Space was Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which was also 5 stars. So I had 2 5-star movies this month, and everyone's already talked about that movie to death, so it's great. If you're into Spider-Man, go watch it. So yeah, Beast in Space was one of my Alien ones, and then my other one, another movie I bought solely because Sam Deegan did a commentary on, The Son of the Stars. I think Deaf Crocodile released this, and it's a Romanian animated movie.
I was going to ask if that was animated. I've definitely seen either a trailer for it or at least a cover art for it.
So the animation is, it's this equal combination of like rudimentary but also kind of incredible. And like it's the late 80s, so it kind of has this like, I don't like He-Man-ish sort of like, Masters of the Universe cartoon feel to it, but a little more like rough around the edges. and it's very charming and like deals with this kid whose mom and dad are like on, like the three of them are on some fucking spaceship for some reason, and they both go out to like fix something and just like, I don't know, drift off into space. So he's just left on this ship alone, and like lands on some planet and is sort of like raised by these aliens that kind of a little bit like one of them kind of feels like I could see the minions being ripped off from him.
Gotcha.
And yeah, it's pretty good. It's it was very interesting to watch like a number one, maybe the first Romanian film I've ever seen, but also like an animated Romanian film.
Yeah.
I think I have one more of like something like this that got released through Deaf Crocodile. I think it's Deaf Crocodile that released it. That I haven't got to, like for that I bought like blind, that I'm interested in watching. But yeah, it's pretty good. Definitely recommend if you're like I'm a big animation nerd. Like I love animated stuff, so I'm extremely interested now in like exploring some more kind of like outside of like, you know, the country's already predominantly known for animation.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was that? Aliens.
Mm-hmm.
So was it 22 Cynthia Rothstock?
22 is Revenge.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. I'm looking at my list on Letterboxd, and I was like, wait, this doesn't make sense. I think whoever liked the list I'm looking at on for the Junesploitation list just has them backwards. So yeah, Revenge was 22, and then 23 is Cynthia Rothstock. So
Yep.
for Revenge, I watched again Vinegar Syndrome's release of Thriller: A Cruel Picture.
Oh,
which
nice.
is so good.
Yeah, that's a great
I kept
movie.
seeing people in like the reviews on Letterboxd being like, "This slow motion is killing me." I was like, "Nah, more of it. Give me it." That's
Mm-hmm.
where Zack Snyder got his entire fucking gimmick from. It's a banger. It like Christina, like I'd never even heard of this movie until Vinegar Syndrome put it out, and then I found out that apparently everybody else has known about it for fucking ever. And it rocks. Like I watched the hardcore version where they just like hardcore sex inserts for reasons.
It's so jarring.
It's very weird. Like I'm so used to that in like Italian movies, but like I don't know. It also doesn't help that they're during like assault scenes that they just like put them in. But yeah, Christina Lindbergh is fucking killing it in it as like I don't think she ever speaks, does she?
I don't believe
I don't
she
think
does.
she's fucking. I don't know. It's so good, and like essentially it's just like a movie like about this girl that is kidnapped and like forced into like sex work, and then she just takes her revenge on everybody. And there's so many shots at the end of her like killing people in slow motion, and it fucking rocks. High recommend. I think I gave 4.5 stars.
Yeah, it definitely deserves a rating like that.
And then I watched Undeclared War from Ringo Lam, which also fucking rocks.
So good.
Yeah, it's great. It's one I need to rewatch again, like soon. Danny Lee, like again, playing a cop, killing it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just fucking just a banger.
I heard about that one a few years ago and saw one clip from it on YouTube and immediately was like, I have to see this movie. And I think the only way that it was available at that point in time, there probably was like a bootleg VCD, or there might have been a Region 3 DVD release of it. But I have that on VHS. And that's the only way that I've seen it. And by the time I tracked down a VHS for a reasonable price, it was announced that they were releasing a 4K restoration of it. And for some dumb reason, I have not spent the money on it yet. Probably because I'm kind of broke. Yeah. But yeah, that movie's fantastic.
Vinegar Syndrome's like scan of it is incredible. Like it looks great.
Yeah, I mean, it's a full-frame VHS, so I'm interested in seeing what it looks like in full widescreen.
Yeah, it's so good. What'd you have for revenge?
I watched Angel 2 Avenging Angel from
Hell yeah, I
1985.
fucking love that franchise.
That's another one. I will argue with anybody that those movies suck. The third one's rough, but the first and second ones are awesome.
It's such an insane idea that somebody was like, "What if we made a franchise about like a teenage like sex worker?" You're just like,
Yeah,
all right."
yeah, and like manages to deal with it in a completely non-sleazy, respectable fashion, while also having like LGBTQIA plus characters and also dealing with them in a respectable fashion. Yeah, I like not what I expected going into it. And that was like one of those movies too, where like I remember seeing the box for the first one as a kid at the video store, and like you look at it and you assume that it's going to be some kind of like, sleazy sex thriller or something like that. It's really not.
Yeah.
And yeah, the first two are perfectly good films. I want a Angel Trilogy 4K box set. Give it to me now.
Like a Vinegar Syndrome released, like I think there's all four of them maybe, in like as a box set. But like I think some of them sold out before I'd ever watched them, and was like, oh, I would actually like to own these. So
yeah, well, they should get on. They should get on making more of them.
Yeah, I'm hoping.
Just because I said
I'm
so.
hoping at some point they'll do like a re-release of them.
Yeah. It's same thing with me. I finally got around to watching. I like in a lot the typical fashion for a lot of movies, like fucking Tubi.
Yeah.
Like I watched the first one on a total whim one afternoon, like folding laundry or doing something like that, and like that task got put to the side, and I was immediately compelled by this movie. So.
Oh yeah. Day 23, Cynthia Rothrock. What'd you watch?
I watched Tiger Claws from 1992, the first of three movies in a series.
I have that, again, Vinegar Syndrome released, I think, the 3 set. I remember liking them, but I don't remember anything about them.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't enjoy this anywhere near as much as Night Vision, even though, like, that was a Fred Williamson vehicle and not a Cynthia Rothrock one. She just happened to be in it. With him, it's interesting. It's directed, or I can't remember if it's directed by, but it's definitely the main actor and the producer is this Brazilian Lebanese guy, Jalal Mary, and he's like. The only way that I can describe him is, despite it being 1992, he's like took all of his mannerisms and fashion sense from like Don Johnson in Miami Vice, and like makes no attempt to hide his accent, even though he's like this guy like Derek Richardson, 100% all-American New York City cop, and which is whatever. I mean, Van Damme never did that either, but like this guy doesn't have Van Damme's charisma at all. It's got Bolo Young in it. I'll watch anything with him in it because he's always just like beating the absolute shit out of guys, and flexing his muscles. But mole-to-man ratio in this is like completely off the fucking charts. And it's one of those movies too that makes it seem like martial arts was like this global sensation. Like you could fill a stadium with people going to see martial arts. And yeah, but I have the trilogy. I'm gonna watch the other two because I bought copies of them.
Yeah.
So but yeah, it is what it is. It's a serviceable early 90s direct-to-video action film. 2.5.
Yeah, the 2 I watched for Cynthia Rothrock are like, again, like you said, they're both just 2.5, just like generic 90s action movies. So I watched 1996's Sworn to Justice.
That's a lawyer one, right?
Yeah, I think so. She plays like a psychologist or some shit, I think. I don't know. It's fine. Like, she's, Cynthia Rothrock, always a joy to watch, but I feel like in the 90s was constantly just doing these, like, stuck in this rut of, like, generic action movies that was, like, straight to cable TV.
Yeah, I agree.
Because then I also watched 1990s Martial Law, which I think was a little better than Sworn to Justice, but like still kind of just like a movie. It's like a movie to just like exist. It's totally fine. Not like egregiously bad, but not necessarily good either.
Yeah, the martial law series. I don't mind the first one. I actually kind of feel like I enjoyed the second one a little bit more.
I don't know. I had not seen any of them, so I'm sure at some point I will probably dive into them because I'm sure they're probably easily available on like YouTube or some shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Day 24 was 80s action. 90s action? 80s action.
No, it was 80s action. Yeah.
I watched Magic Crystal from 1986, which was incredible.
I want to see this movie so bad.
It plays more like maybe I don't want to say E.T., but with a crystal, but like it kind of feels like that, where it's this like kid that finds this crystal that talks to him, and like for whatever reasons, like the KGB wants it, and it's
because of course
it's like it's again a Cynthia Rothrock movie. Yeah, I don't know, totally fun. Would recommend if you could track it down. I think I watched it on YouTube. Yeah, pretty good. I would recommend it. It's very goofy, but like in that fun sort of like 80s goofy way.
Yeah.
And then apparently the other movie I watched was from the 90s on accident. I just don't think. I thought I saw it that said 83, but I watched Cyborg Cop, which was not not good.
Yeah.
What did you have for 80s action?
I host these like backyard movie nights during the summertime where I invite a bunch of friends over and I write a stupid, obnoxious speech and don't tell them what they're watching until I deliver the speech about the movie and then project it on the back of the house. And we were actually having it over at my buddy's place, who Brendan and his wife have been kind enough to host these when the weather is lousy. And I put everybody that showed up through the arduous task of watching 1988's Bulletproof starring Gary Busey.
Hell yeah.
Man, this was the last movie that he made before he got into that motorcycle accident where he wasn't wearing his helmet.
Yeah.
And I can't really say that there's a huge difference between pre and post accident Gary Busey. He's not an action star. He's fine in Lethal Weapon in the like 15 minutes combined to screen time that he's in it, which is interesting because this was made the year after Lethal Weapon and starts off like a Lethal Weapon ripoff. There's some goofy stuff in it, like the whole plot surrounds this like super tank that the United States lets a communist militia in Mexico steal on purpose so they have an excuse to invade Mexico, which is on brand for the United States. But like the tank doesn't do much. It spends like the entire movie on a trailer. But when you get close looks at it, it's pretty obvious that like it was mostly made out of like cardboard or plastic. And then like when Gary Busey gets his hands on it, like he doesn't even know how to operate it. So it's kind of it's a pointless plot device really, but that's what the entire movie's built around. It's got Henry Silva in it. It's got William Smith in it again. This is full gravelly voice William Smith playing a Russian militant for reasons. Danny Trejo's in the beginning of it. So, yeah, it's a movie, and it's mildly stupidly entertaining. I guess that's all I can say about it.
Yeah, I remember enjoying it. I probably will not rewatch it.
I definitely apologize to the people who showed up for movie night that night for it. So,
day 25, Exploitation. What'd you have for Exploitation?
I watched 1973's White Lightning starring Burt Reynolds.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that forever.
Yeah, I always thought that this was a sequel to Gator for some reason. I had the two of them switched around. Which is kind of funny because I think Reynolds has got a mustache in Gator, and he doesn't in this one. He's clean shaven. It's good. It feels very dated, but I mean, the movie's 50 friggin' years old at this point in time, so you can't expect too much from it. It's got a great opening, pretty slow middle, decent ending. Everybody's sweating all the time. Like there's these scenes where Burt Reynolds is driving around in this car with this other guy that he partners up with, and the guy's girlfriend, I'm not really sure what their relationship is, but I can't imagine the inside of that car not just smelling like a week old bag of wet onions. Yeah. It must have been absolutely awful, because they are definitely filming in the Deep South in the dead of summer. Yeah. Ned Beatty plays a bad guy in it, and he's surprisingly menacing in it. I'm used to him in slightly more comical roles, but he's pretty good in it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was okay. Like 2.5 out of 5. I don't know if I'm going to rush back to watch it.
So I watched 1980s Mother's Day, which is a rewatch for the movie I hadn't seen in forever. And it holds up. Not like the greatest movie, but totally watchable if you're like into I guess basically a The Hills Have Eyes sort of like rip off. Probably one of the like more depressing trauma movies, because it's just like straight up bleak throughout. Recommend it. Charles Kaufman, Lloyd Kaufman's brother, making a movie that wasn't a sex comedy, which is I think all he did before.
Yeah,
maybe after. I recommend it if you've never seen it. I've not had the nerve to watch the remake yet, with Rebecca Romaine, I think, is the lead.
Man, I didn't even know that was a thing.
Maybe it's not. It's not.
I mean, it seems like the tier of thing that Rebecca Romaine would be making at this point in time, but you know.
Wow, Charlie Kaufman does not have a credit, apparently, on the remake at all.
Oh, wow.
I was trying to just see if I could find it through his letterbox, but I'm not digging enough to figure out who was in it. I also watched 1973's God Monster of Indian Flats.
Nice.
Which rocks. Very fucking slow, but like anytime you get this fucking weird-ass sheep creature thing, totally cool.
Yeah, that's one that I watched in a double feature one night with Blood Shack.
Oh yeah.
And like they're totally complementary films. Like same thing, slow, but like when things happen, it's amazing.
It's a fucking interesting movie with like where they're like kind of trying to address race issues but not doing a fucking great job, but then there's like a mutant sheep in it, and I don't know, very weird.
Yeah.
Day 26, Italian horror. I did a double Vinegar Syndrome release feature where I watched 1988's Primal Rage, which fucking rocks.
Awesome movie.
It's so good.
Yeah, so good.
I don't think I'd seen it before, or if I did, it's just a thing I saw like in the 90s and forgot about. But it rules. Way better than 28 Days Later, even though I do like that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, a rage virus just going through college campus, and pretty great. And then I also watched 1983's A Blade in the Dark, which I'd seen before, but apparently have not watched in like the last like 6 or 7 years, because I had not rated it on Letterboxd, and I don't know how I did not do it when I was just like binging the shit out of Italian horror movies. And it's fucking great. The Vinegar Syndrome release looks incredible. Like, very excited to dig into like whatever bonus features are on it. Yeah, just fucking really good. If you're into Italian horror at all, I feel like a must see.
That's one that I actually want to wait until I get my hands on the, you said Vinegar Syndrome release that?
Yeah, they like this fucking incredible, like, packaging for it, too, where, like, the box is, like, kind of pulls apart into like triangles, if that makes sense, where it's like,
Nice.
it kind of looks like it's cut down like from corner to corner. It's one of their better packaging I think they've done in a long time.
Awesome.
I mean, it's like a Lamberto Bava movie, so you kind of know what you're getting into if you've seen like any of his movies.
Yeah.
What did you have for Italian horror?
I watched The Sect from
Oh, so
1991,
good.
Michele Soavi.
What a king.
Yeah, yeah. I went to the Exhumed Films 24-hour horror-thon for the first time last year and was so pleasantly surprised to get to see The Church on 35 millimeter, which is like one of my all-time favorite horror movies.
Yeah, The Church is great.
Yeah, it's atmospheric. It's got nonsensical aspects to it, but I love everything about it. I enjoyed this. I thought I had seen it already, because I am a big fan of Michele Soavi's movies, but I think that I had actually like started it and then not finished it. It's got a pretty amazing dream sequence at one point in time with it, where they do some like forced perspective shots to make one of the characters look like they're much taller than they actually are. The main character is actually played by Jamie Lee Curtis's sister, which I didn't realize until like well after I was done watching it. It's slow in parts, not quite as like constantly moving with things happening like The Church is. Kind of had me saying like less talk, more Satan about halfway through the movie.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's got a really interesting ending. Which is on top of a lot of other interesting things that happen in the movie. Like Herbert Lom is in it, and he's constantly dropping this really gross-looking substance in his eyes for some reason. It looks like it might be iodine. I don't know, but yeah, there's a pet rabbit in it, which rules because I like rabbits, and I think they make great pets. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll give a movie extra points for that, but yeah, you should check it out if you like Italian horror and you like Michele Soavi's kind of borderline dream logic horror movies.
Yeah.
You'll enjoy this one.
His movies tend to make zero sense, but they are way better for it.
Yeah.
Day 27 was The King, Sammo Hung. What'd you watch for Sammo Hung?
I watched 1989's Pedicab Driver.
Oh, I haven't seen that one yet.
You should check it out because it is a good one. I've seen a lot of the movies that he's like the star in over the years, like Magnificent Butcher and Iron Fisted Monk and stuff like that. And I was thinking about watching one of the like other Three Little Fortunes movies that he did with Yuen Biao and Jackie Chan. And then I was like, I kind of want to watch something that's more just him. So I checked this out, and it's good. It's 89, so, you know, Sammo's not too old. He's still taking crazy bumps and stunt sequences that nobody should be able to walk away from. Guy moves way faster than anybody of his build should be capable of. But yeah, he's pulling a rickshaw and things happen. It's a kind of by the numbers martial arts movie, but definitely recommend.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to that at some point, hopefully soon. I've had it on my watch list for a minute and just never gotten to it yet. I went with one he directed and one he stars in. So the one he directed, 1988, Spooky, about these cops that live by the shore of the ocean or like work by it. I'm not sure. It kind of feels like in the movie they live at the police station. But some sort of like magic curse happens where this ghost comes out of the water and like fucks with them, and it's pretty fun. It kind of feels a bit like Mr. Vampire, and it's sort of like horror comedy aspect to it, and it's pretty fun. Like once this fucking ghost comes out of the water and starts like trying to kill them with martial arts, it gets extremely fun. Definitely recommend. This is another one, though, I watched on YouTube where the subtitles were, like, embedded into the film and just, like, impossible to read most of the time. So I couldn't tell you what half the dialogue was throughout, because anytime they were in the police station, it's all white with like white subtitles happening. So I was like, I don't know.
Oh, God.
I'm just taking it in.
Yeah.
And then I watched 1991's The Gambling Ghost, which stars Sammo Hung playing his character, his dad, as his character's dad, and his character's grandpa, where he...
this is the one that you were telling me about.
So he somehow, his grandpa's ghost comes back and is helping him cheat at gambling, including a scene where like the Sammo Hung is gambling, where he is also playing his grandpa under the card table, and will like tap him on his right or left knee on like what side to bet on, or fucking whatever. Like one is red, one's black. I forget what the exact rules are and like what he's gambling. But then at one point it's like in the middle, and he's like struggling to figure out where to grab him, and just grabs him in the dick. It's extremely fucking goofy, but it's really fun. There's a scene where like Sammo Hung has a fight against himself 3 ways, that it's filmed God. So insanely chaotic to have him fighting himself. I don't know, it rocks. I 100% recommend if for people that have not seen it. It's pretty fun, and 3 Sammo Hungs, way better than 1.
Yeah.
Of day 28 was 80s comedy. I watched UHF, which is holds up.
Oh my God.
I like, it's an 80s comedy. There's some things in it that don't necessarily work anymore, but like Weird Al's sense of humor, I'm on board with. Yeah, I don't know, it fucking works. Emo Phillips killing it in it.
Oh, he's so good in that movie.
Like, as much as Michael Richards kind of maybe sucks now, like he's fucking great in it. Like,
what's his name? Like Stanley Sapowski or something like that.
And like there's a whole point like where he comes out on the kids show and he's just talking about his mop. That's very funny. Like, all the like 80s sort of action spoofs and shit in it is very fun.
Yep.
I recommend. Go watch it.
I don't. If you haven't seen that movie, absolutely check it out.
I think it was on Tubi. Maybe I watched it somewhere for free. And then I also gave Peter Jackson's Bad Taste a rewatch, which still rocks.
Yeah, that's a great movie. I think the only I feel like that and Dead Alive are like my favorite from that era. And Meet the Feebles is entertaining, but I don't enjoy it as much as those other two.
Yeah, like it's Bad Taste. It's like amazing when you watch it and you're just like, this motherfucker got so much money to then make Lord of the Rings.
I know. It's bonkers how far he came.
But it's also like you watch it and you're just like, I get it, because like he made this for like, I don't know, $20,000, and it's like, pretty fucking well made. And especially like when you get into like Dead Alive, where you're like, I know he did not have enough money to make this movie the way he wanted to, and he somehow pulls it off. Smart move, having everybody in the movie play like 2 characters, where it's like a human version and then like their alien version, and like, I don't know, it's fucking great. Another one that I recommend if people have not seen. What do you have for 80s comedy?
I'm going to take a quick break and come back and tell you that.
Cool.
All right. So for 80s comedy, I watched Hot to Trot from 1988.
What the fuck is that?
This is the darkest of blights on John Candy's storied career. I don't know how this... For starters, I don't know how this movie got a PG rating. Just off of the language in it alone. Never mind some of the other stuff. This is a quote-unquote comedy starring Bobcat Goldthwait. Dabney Coleman is in it also. He plays Bobcat's shitbag rich father. Virginia Madsen is in it, and I'm just going to pretend that she isn't, because this is beneath her completely. I know that I said that Return of the Exorcist was the worst thing I watched this month. I actually think this might have been even worse. Simply because like there was actual money behind it, and it's terrible. So the basic plot line is that Bobcat Goldthwait is going to get thrown out of his rich dad's house, and then he discovers that one of his dad's racehorses, or a racehorse at the stable where for unknown reasons rich people go to have sex with their mistresses. There's a talking racehorse there, who's voiced by John Candy, and the horse, the horse starts giving Bobcat stock advice, which causes him to basically become a millionaire and his father's main competitor overnight. It's a misstep in every imaginable way. All the jokes in it fall flat. There is not a single funny moment in this movie. There is a ton of really problematic race jokes in this movie.
Yeah, that checks out.
Yeah, there is apparently, and I don't know if this is true or not, so I almost feel bad saying it. But from what I was able to determine, John Candy improv most of the horse talking. And there's a couple of lines that he drops it out. I was like, I don't like that coming from John Candy, who I loved so much as a kid growing up. Yeah, you should not watch this movie. It's terrible. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the 80s comedy, either like, for me especially, like any stuff I've watched in the last couple of years, like that I liked when I was a kid, I'm like, ooh, this does not hold up.
Yeah, this was something that I actually like heard about and could not believe that it existed. So I had to find this. And yeah, I am really glad that I did not pay money for it, because fuck this movie.
Day 29 was the last free space. What'd you have for that?
I watched 2 movies that day. I took a page out of your book. I watched Angel 3.
Hell yeah.
Because I had not seen the second and third ones. And I watched Basic Instinct from 1992.
It's so good.
You know, I like I had said at the beginning of the podcast, everything was a first time watch for me, and I mean, I put Showgirls on a pedestal above the vast majority of cinema. I love that movie so much, and you know, this is the same. This is Joe Esterhaus writing it. A couple years before, Paul Verhoeven directing it, which, you know, everything that he makes is fantastic, or at least entertaining. And this was pretty good. I totally understand why like caused such an uproar in the early 90s, because it's very explicit compared to anything else that was in theaters at that point in time, or anything else that I've seen from like the late 80s to early 90s. I kind of wish I'm a huge fan of the I'm drawing a blank right now on the director's name. It's Black Rain from the mid 80s with Michael Douglas in it. I really like that movie a lot, and his character in that has almost the same name as his character in Basic Instinct, and I kind of wish that like this was like a sequel to it. Yeah, because he's playing the same character too. He's a shitty cop. He's got a drinking problem, you know, it's all that stuff. So, but yeah, Basic Instinct was awesome, and I really can't wait to watch it again. And Angel 3 was okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, it's not nearly as engaging as the first two. I was kind of looking forward to seeing Mitzi Capture play Molly, like the main character. Because I grew up watching Silk Stockings for some weird reason and really enjoyed that show, and still kind of do now. So I was interested in seeing her in like a full-length movie, and she's fine. Yeah. Counterfeit art, porno ring, I don't know. She's a photographer now instead of a lawyer. It's a step down in careers. Maybe she lost her license. I don't know.
I watched 1998's Biozombie. Which fucking rocks. Another one Vinegar Syndrome put out that I cannot wait to revisit this. I had so much fun watching it. Just some mall employees apparently accidentally hit a dude that drinks soda that had a chemical in it that turned him into quote unquote a cannibal.
Yeah.
And hijinks ensue. It's pretty fun. Very sort of like slapsticky. A lot more, I guess, comedy isn't the right word, but it's like very over the top, sort of Evil Dead 2-ish. I felt.
Yeah, I would agree. That's a good description for it.
And was not what I was expecting, so was very, very pleasantly surprised. And then I followed it up with Evil Dead Rise, which I did not enjoy. Very, very disappointed that Evil Dead finally taken its first L. It I don't know. I'm so fucking baffled by people's reaction to this movie because I've seen a bunch of people that are like, "This is the best one in the franchise," and I'm like, "You are out of your fucking mind." Like, it's like, I don't know, all of the shit in it that people were losing their fucking minds about. I was like, this is the blandest thing I've ever seen. What are you talking about? Like, there's a scene with a cheese grater that everyone was going crazy about that, like, you see for maybe a second and a half. It's
that's like the issue I had with all the Hostel movies.
It's so fucking like bland. They're like, everyone lost their goddamn mind about like the title card, which I did not understand because it's fine. Like, no one in it is at all like anyone I liked or was rooting for. Like, you don't get like a Ash or like Mia from the remake where you're kind of like actually rooting for somebody. It's just this like family killing each other, and you're just kind of like, okay, I guess, I don't know. The like story that like the wraparound story for it is so pointless. I don't know. I hated it. It just did not care for it whatsoever. And then day 30 ending with sequels, where we both watched the Nemesis sequels. And did you watch 5 by any chance?
I did not watch 5.
It's fucking unwatchable.
It's like shot on green screen in a clip show, basically,
so,
right?
So it's directed by Dustin Ferguson, who is like, I think, part of like the Polonia brothers family.
Okay.
Where they just pump out just shitty movie after shitty movie, and like he has 121 directing credits. And it's shit like Ebola Rex and 5G Zombies and fucking The Clown Chainsaw Massacre, and it's Cocaine Cougar coming out. Like, it's just garbage like that, where like whatever fucking thing is currently taking the fucking genre by storm, they make a ripoff of that comes out like 3 months after anybody fucking cared. And they're all bad. Like, when Katie and I were doing the Amityville movies, he did Amityville in the Hood, which was the one that broke me into being like, we can't do this anymore. I can't watch any more of these fucking movies. Because it's like 80 minutes, and I would say, it's 70 minutes, and I would say 50 to 60 minutes of it is just like fucking footage of graffiti in LA as you drive by it slowly and shit. It's just, he's a fucking shitty director. So I don't know how he got this fucking Nemesis 5 job, but it's fucking terrible. 2, 3, and 4 though, I will back, even though they are also bad. But
yeah,
I totally had fun watching them at least.
Yeah, I feel like 2 would have been. I feel like 2 would have been a good standalone movie on its own. But, like, I've also heard rumors that, like, Nemesis 2 isn't actually a sequel to Nemesis. Cyborg is a sequel to Nemesis.
So, apparently there's a quote-unquote director's cut of Cyborg. And, like,
yeah, I have that.
I think one of Nemesis that make them make more sense in the same universe, but I have not seen them yet.
Yeah, I heard about that, like, composite cut of the Nemesis sequels. Actually, I think it might be the first 4 altogether. But I have not seen that available anywhere. I do have the if it's the Slinger cut of Cyborg, I have that. And it's one of those things that I really wish there was better film elements for, because it seems like a really interesting version of the movie, but it is unbearable to watch. It's got a time code running the entire time at the bottom of the screen. It's full frame. It looks like it's like 96p for the resolution. It's really difficult to make it through.
Yeah, like I remember reading in that book that like a lot of those director's cuts are literally just like raw material kind of things, or like just whatever didn't get destroyed by like the studios and shit. And I really want to see them, but I'm also like, I don't know. It's like I maybe will get to them at some point. I don't know how much I want to watch just like raw material Albert Pune stuff.
Yeah. Considering how quickly he worked, it's like you got to wonder what he left on the cutting room floor when he was editing things.
Yeah.
You know, like it must be stuff that, like, for the most part, is really just unnecessary.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it's interesting because I watched all 3 of his Nemesis sequels after reading that book, and so I'm like, I absolutely could see if any of these movies were made with like in 3 days on like the budget of reshoots for another movie, especially 3.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I think like I had mentioned to you, like 3 is another. It's like 70% flashbacks and 30% standing by a broken down Land Rover and talking.
Yeah.
But I'll still watch it. Like whatever. Yeah, it's like his ability to do that, where he would just take like $10,000 from money that he was given for reshoots and then just make a movie while he had access to the equipment, is just amazing.
Yeah, I mean,
and turning out things.
Oh, good.
No,
I was
go
gonna
ahead.
say I absolutely recommend. Like, it seems like a lot of people hate 2, 3, and 4, but I don't know. I had a good time watching them. Like, they're not great, but like I totally had fun. Well,
yeah, absolutely.
4, you get to watch Sue Price kill somebody with like knives that come out of her nipples.
Oh
and
yeah,
she
I forgot
fucking
that happened in it.
Love being nude throughout that entire movie.
Yeah, it's a weird jump too, because like it's proposed in like 3 that she like disrobe at one point in time, and like it doesn't happen. So like it was a weird. I do not remembering much from 4, but I remember that being the thing that I was just kind of like, oh wow, she is naked a lot.
Yeah, she's like nude a lot in it, and like there's a lot more like sex scenes, like, or just generally any, that I don't remember being in any of the previous ones.
Yeah,
like, she's
nothing like that in the previous
ones. She's like
ones.
fucking a dude in a car and then like stabs him in the face with like nipple knives, which is a good idea. Yeah. Albert Pune killed.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
But yeah, other than that, I got nothing for. Like, 5's just fucking straight up garbage. Every shot is just like, it's just like he just propped a camera in a room and just shot at like some people standing in front of a plain wall talking. I don't know how he managed to get Sue Price back in it. It's hot garbage. Do not recommend.
Yeah, I hate lazy filmmaking.
I
like
think
that
and Ridiculous 6 were my 2 half-star movies for the month.
Yeah, my 2 worst definitely were Hot to Trot and Return of the Exorcist. Do not watch either of them.
Yeah, so that was 90-something movies for Junesploitation. Did you have anything you've watched recently outside Junesploitation you want to talk about?
Aside from you convincing me to dive into the 90 Day Fiancé universe.
The real horror.
Yeah, wow. That's a subject for not here. But yeah, I'm trying to think what else I've watched recently. Rewatched Lost Boys the other day. Still enjoy it.
Yeah, that's a movie I like, but I've never been like the rabid fan that everyone else seems to be for it.
Yeah, it's got a like Yeah, it's got a very strong fan base, but
I think I enjoy the aesthetic to it more than the actual movie.
yeah. Yeah, and we watched Alligator
Oh,
at
Alligator
the
rocks.
most recent movie night that I hosted. And yeah, I absolutely love that movie. I need to get around to seeing Alligator 2: The Mutation.
Alligator 2 is not as like a far weaker of a movie because you don't get a giant alligator attacking a wedding in it. But like I had fun watching it. It's just not anywhere near as good. It's like if Alligator's a 4-star movie, Alligator 2 is like maybe a 2-star movie.
Nice.
I would definitely recommend, if you haven't seen them, the Killer Crocodile movies from Italy. Way
Yes,
better.
I've seen the first one. I have not seen the second one.
Rock.
The first one is awesome. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm literally just have been watching shitty DC movies for some reason. Like I watched Wonder Woman and Wonder Woman 84 last night, and not great.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to jump on the like ragging on Wonder Woman the movie train, but like I can't remember the last time that I was as bored watching a movie that cost that much money to make.
Like
it's got its moments, but they're so few and far between that I was just waiting for the movie to be done.
the first like the first Wonder Woman, I'm like on board with until the end. Like the end when it just becomes like a big, fucking CGI punching CGI thing. I'm like out of. But like I do like the stuff where like especially when they get into like the World War One, I think it's World War One stuff. And like I don't know, it's fine. Wonder Woman 84 outside of Pedro Pascal, Kristen Wiig is hot garbage. That movie's a fucking mess that I do not understand how it happened.
Yeah, I have not made it a priority to watch that. So
I don't know. It's fucking weird. Like Chris Pine comes back, but he's like in someone else's body. So Wonder Woman has essentially made a wish that like he would like Steve Trevor comes back, but his like I don't know. He's inhabiting someone else's body who is like technically she's fucking some dude against his will in it because she thinks it's Chris Pine. Like it's baffling. But Pedro Pascal plays like Maxwell Lord, whose like entire thing is like gaining power from wishes or something, and he's fucking great. Like he is just eating all of the scenery in that movie. And then Kristen Wiig is like pretty fun as Cheetah, but everything else in it is a mess. I don't know. It's just a mess. That's mostly. I watched that, and then I rewatched The Batman, which still rocks. Yeah. You want to do like a shout out? You got a shout out for anything?
I mean, probably the biggest thing that I can shout out is I play guitar in a band. We're called Sour Times, and we are releasing an EP this autumn, and we're all super excited about it. It's gone through all like the professional level channels. Definitely kind of came out of my friend's office / studio during the pandemic and snowballed from there. And we're, like I said, we're super excited to release it. Don't have a specific date yet, but it's coming out this fall. It'll be at sourtimes.bandcamp.com. So yeah,
if I remember correctly, you told me it sounds like Simple Plan.
Yeah, we do a really bitchin' cover of My Friends Over You.
Hell yeah.
So, yeah. But, yeah, so get on board if you're into late 90s pop punk.
Yeah.
So, no, I mean, we're obviously not happy about the current social political climate and economic climate in the country, and all of our songs are about our dissatisfaction with that. So, if you are into that thing or that kind of thing, then give us a listen.
My shout out, I'm gonna say go listen to Remembering Never. Mean Pete, the singer of Remembering Never, and Bishop and Ether Coven died the other day, which is a bummer. And I fucking loved all his bands, so especially Remembering Never. Go listen to them. Very good. Just go get some real fucking mad about everything hardcore.
Yeah. Yeah, that was it was surprising to see, I feel like a lot of artists don't realize how many people they touch in their respective communities. And the number of messages that I saw on social media related to that was mind-boggling. I wonder if he realized how many people he had influenced and made a connection with over the years. But yeah, huge loss.
It's interesting because he's like a dude who's like music, or like especially like his lyrics have been like really important to me, but like not someone I ever really followed on like social media or anything. So I had like no idea that he was sick. And it just kind of like, I saw like somebody randomly in like the middle of the night post like a, like an RIP message for him, and I was like, wait, what? And then like fell down like the rabbit hole of like, oh, he like had colon cancer, and I think he was only like in his 40s maybe, like at the most like maybe 50. Like he was so young. But yeah, all his bands rock. I cannot recommend them enough. Go check them out if you haven't.
Yeah, if you're looking for something else new to listen to and you haven't checked it out yet, the Better Lovers EP,
so
fucking rules. Good. And that new Glass Casket EP, if you're old and you remember Glass Casket from back in the day, that is equally as good, and sounds like they literally did not stop making music between like 2003 and 2023.
Yeah, there's been like a handful, like all of those. There's a new Great Falls album up for pre-order that I cannot wait to hear. They very good noise rock, really heavy, angry noise rock, if that's your thing. Yeah. And then I think one of the other things that came out recently, or I think it's old but got released on Bandcamp, is 2 Minutes to Midnight put up a cover of Nerdy by Poison the Well, specifically because Maddie Watkins from Year of the Knife sang on it. And all the funds are going to her GoFundMe for like this fucking brutal van accident Year of the Knife got in.
Yeah, I saw that. That's crazy.
It sounds like she's not doing great, so I don't know if that's your thing. Go buy it. Go donate to her GoFundMe if you can. All right. Do you want to? Do you have anywhere like you can point people other than Sour Times if they want to find you on anything?
I am only on Instagram, and my Instagram handle is 24-hour knife fight. It's all one word. If you want to find me, that's the only place that you can locate me on the internet.
Smart.
I do not do Twitter or Threads or anything else.
I've unfortunately on Twitter, and it's a fucking hellscape. I'm mostly still only on it because I've had this like almost 6 or 7 year like group DM going on that we're like just sort of writing out the end of Twitter with. All right, if you would like to follow I Hope You Suffer, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/IHopeYouSufferPodcast. Katie and I just released an episode on Teen Titans Go to the Movies because we were going to do The Amazing Spider-Man, but I've been having bad times and did not want to watch Spider-Man being sad, so we watched something fun. You can buy merch at our Store Frontier shop. You can leave us a rating and review on iTunes and Spotify and all that shit. Follow us on Instagram.
Buy some merch.
Just fucking join our Patreon. Go listen to that fucking stupid long Aliens episode.
It's a masterpiece.
You can go listen to Katie watch all of the Aliens movies for the first time and have very hot takes about which one's the best.
I listened to that entire episode last summer, I think, while I was mowing an entire farm field in direct sunlight, and I think I got a combination of heat stroke and maybe something else, but enjoyed what I was listening to.
That episode was like super fun to record, and I just remember Katie being like, Alien Resurrection is the best one. I was like, you fucking off the podcast.
Yeah, fired immediately.
You can join Katie's Patreon at patreon.com/werewolfface. Follow Kid at Hidden Kids 3 and Kitchification of Blood. You can listen to the podcast named Kate Movie Club. Chris, this was fun.
Hey, thanks for having me.
We will do this again, or I'll be back on for like a regular fucking shitty movie episode at some point.
Perfect. Whenever you want to have me back, feel free to reach out.
Totally. Also, I know we said it earlier. Go listen to Unsung Horrors, Junesploitation episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to probably listen to it tonight now that we've got this recorded. Alright. I hope you suffer, but why?